always give that vote.
Court is in session with Ryan in Sacktown on If You Don't Like That. Now, Ryan in Sacktown.
Oh, must be Rhino.
In my eye, this is the greatest moment in my life.
Damn right, it's the greatest moment of my life. It's Friday. What's up, everybody? Happy Friday. Hope you are having a good one. We're in the 2 p.m. time slot, which means we are the only show in town today on this channel. So let's make it a good one. Let's make it a fun one. We've got a lot to talk about, not just with the Kings and local stuff. We've got Adam Silver back on the map. Interesting comments from him. We're going to go over those. You've got NFL football this weekend. It is Royal Rumble Friday. Most of you know what that means. That means we open it up to all of you, meaning you can get in here anytime you want. As many people as they want can come on at the same time.
Now time for the Royal Rumble.
Ton of thoughts on last night. Yes, I guess we're going to have to talk about De'Aaron's pinky. I guess we're going to have to talk about it. And also, speaking of fingers, hey, Raider fan, I know you're out there somewhere. Hey, Raider fan, the gum chewer, he's back and he's with you. Maybe he's going to get you one of these. We will see. We'll talk about it on the other side. Looking forward to hanging out with you for a couple hours here on If You Don't Like That. Welcome to the King's Court.
Grant and Ryan break it down. It's Sacktown, we're the crown.
Needs to be more aggressive on the offensive end, but this is the kind of
Williams, the D-Box.
Bucks. Goodbye. Oh, if you don't like
Court is in session. Kings coming off of a loss. I know. I get it. Coming off of a loss. We'll talk about it. You know what? I liked the fight last night. They shouldn't have even been that close. But something going back to what we've talked about since Doug Christie has taken over the team. It's simply this. As long as you do these 2 or 3 things that are non-negotiable, no room to barter, no room to say, oh, well, maybe could we do that? No, coach, none whatsoever. As long as you do those things for as long as possible during that game, guess what? The byproduct, probably going to be winning. It wasn't last night, but arguably they did it for, I would say, 30 minutes, 36 minutes. In fact, if you watch the first quarter, yes, they look slow. Yes, they look tired. It's not an excuse. It truly is a scheduled loss. There's no way of getting around that. It's the hardest back-to-back in the league, going to Denver from the West Coast. It's just difficult. But they were trying. They were fighting. Just Denver was fresh, man. Jokic, I ask all you, how long can Jokic play at this level? Because I think this guy's not slowing down anytime soon. He doesn't play a real forceful type of game. It's not hard on his joints. He's up and down the court, and it's so effortless for him. The beautiful thing about Jokic is when it's basketball time, it's basketball time. He's in. And IQ-wise, like there was 3 or 4 plays last night that don't include the 3-quarter, half-court shot at the end of the third quarter. There was 3 or 4 plays that it's just like my basketball IQ is so much higher than yours. Like it almost like he took the second to pause, like, oh, you're going to do that? Just puts it up, puts it in. Don't want to give him too much love, but he's different, man. And when it's outside of basketball time, don't bug him. Don't get between him and his ponies. Have you seen some of the videos on the internet with Jokic where it's right before practice? He's watching a horse race. He's doing something else. Like, hey, come on, Joker, come on, man. We got to practice. You got to pull him onto the court. Once you get him onto the court, he's focused. But a very different dude in that sense, but not bad. He's an NBA champion. By the way, today, we are going to only have audio sound drops. Only audio. We're not going to do any video. And that has nothing to do with any of the other local programming. Let's just make that clear. Just a few of the drops are a little too long because of Adam Silver. Yeah, we might rehash that. I got hooked last night. I got hooked bad. So anyways, a lot to talk about on this Friday. Get up in here. Would love to hear from you. As always, brought to you by my favorite spot in town. That's Bennett's. 3 locations in all: Roseville, Rockland, Howe, and Fair Oaks. Go to bennettsrestaurants.com and check out their prime cuts of seafood and steak. And by the way, get your reservation for weekend brunch. It's my favorite thing to do. We're talking about going this weekend. You might see us there. So go check it out, bennettsrestaurants.com. Chat, I'm coming to you in a minute. Can't wait to see what you all are up to. But first, it's the top story. Everybody's talking about it. And how could you not? I'm not even upset with the fans for talking about it. Hell, it's all your broadcast team talked about last night for what seemed like half of the game. De'Aaron's finger. Mark Jones, it hit me last night. And I get Katie didn't have a great night either. Look, they're on short sleep too. But it hit me. Mark Jones is so much closer to a freaking groupie than he is a play-by-play guy. It's insane. Like, the fact, like, if I need to walk this back, that on an NBA broadcast, which I'm sure other teams have people monitoring, and I'm not saying some of these things about De'Aaron's finger are a secret, but I don't know. Maybe if I'm De'Aaron Fox, maybe if I'm Doug Christie, hell, maybe if I'm Vivek Ranadive, I don't want my play-by-play guy saying how my star point guard's pinky looks like it's making a right turn. Like, what are we doing? Let's highlight it. Well, everybody already knows, so why don't we just put it on a platter for everybody else to feast on? And so there was that element to it, and then there's the afterword. At some point, it crosses over from acknowledgement that dude's playing through something to kind of bordering on an excuse. And that's what it felt like last night to me. And the broadcast was the least of the problems, but that's, to me, what really inflamed this fan base about the finger. We talked about the finger for probably 25, 30 minutes on the post-game show. And it's being talked about all throughout the media today. No, I have not been listening a lot, but it has gotten back to me that it is a big topic of conversation. So a lot to get through with that one. We will do it here in a few minutes. Adam, what's up, dude? How you doing?
Acknowledge me.
I got you. I acknowledge you. Welcome in. John Collins trade talks heating up. We'll see, Sanchez. We will see. If that information's coming out, it's coming out from the other side in terms of the Jazz and Danny Ainge. That's just my take on it. Also, I posed a question to the fan base last night. I love these mics, and they've been around for a minute, but the mics that are next to the hoops or right near the goal, taped to the backboard, you get a lot of good audio from those. Malik Monk, Malik, my man, you got to cut out that front part of the dam. I'm cool with the dam, but you got to cut out the front part, man. But I like the personality. You learn about these guys. It adds a little bit of personalization. It adds a little bit of, context to the game. It's cool. That's part of the reason a lot of people like sitting down by the court. It's a whole different world when you're sitting that close to the action. But I've noticed all year, I'm like, Domas, man, when he goes to the hoop hard, when he's going to really try to throw it down on somebody's face or draw a foul, I'm like, dude, you have got a deep roar. Like Domas has a really deep roar. If you close your eyes and you listen to it, you'd be like, is that like a mountain lion or something? Like, what is it? And so it hit me last night. And so I was asking, I played the drop. I'm like, is this Domas or is this Chewbacca? I need some help from all you. Check this out. This is from last night. Can you believe that? Again. So who is it? Is that Domas? Is that Chewbacca? Let me know. I wish I had a roar like that. That's pretty damn good. Not going to complain about it, but let's talk about last night. Kings, Nugs did not go the Kings' way. Look, the most important thing about last night was the Kings picked up the win the night before. It wasn't hard to know. It wasn't exactly a surprise that it was going to be a difficult task for the Kings walking into Denver, a Denver team that was rested, that's been playing very good basketball, 8-2 coming into this one. And the first quarter, things got a little messy. They gave up 40 points in the first quarter. Offense not looking exactly great. Definitely trying to get Keegan Murray in on the action. However, Keegan really could not get it going in this one. Now, he got it going a little bit later, but Denver doing what they want. And the thing that bugged me the most, and it's nothing the Kings did, they can't control it, but Denver clearly had a game plan that was spread the Kings out, spread them out on defense. And we've seen that now in a couple of games since the Kings have played the Milwaukee Bucks. You could even argue Golden State kind of did that to a degree, even though the Kings were doubling. So those two things parlayed together ended up into some really open, free, easy shots for pro basketball players, which that lead was built on, 18 points in the Golden State game. But I'm like, I hope this doesn't become the blueprint. And slowly but surely, the Kings showed some signs of life. Denver looked like they were completely going to blow this one out of the water at halftime. The Kings had given up 74 points at the half. And then second half starts. What the hell? 7-0 run from the Kings. And you're thinking, all right, they're going to chip into this. Jerry and I at halftime were like, okay, like we're trying to find good angles to talk about here, but we both really did not see a path for the Kings to pull this one off. And inevitably, the run still came. In fact, the Kings got as close as 12 points halfway through the third quarter. And then they just made two really bad turnovers. They took a bad three-pointer. And before you know it, the lead's back to 16 by the end of the quarter. The game's out of control again. Jokic is back on the bench after hitting, a 70-foot or 75-foot three from three-quarters court that had some English on it. It was some incredible, it's just Jokic. It was incredible shot making. The stuff these guys do, like if you had a camera behind the scenes at shoot-arounds or open gyms, they'd make Dude Perfect look like, dude, that's all right. They're really, really good. What's up, Tristan? Oh, man. Our resident rodeo clown, Tristan, in the house. How you doing today? Happy Friday, buddy. Good to see you.
Acknowledge me.
Wow, Tristan even got an acknowledge. I like it. The stuff that they do with the basketballs, it's incredible. So anyways, game's supposed to be over, right? Dougie McBuckets comes in, brings the Kings back, almost all the way back. And that byproduct that we talk about, that Doug Christie talks about, as long as you show up, you give the effort, you're physical, and you're giving everything that you have. You're laying it on the floor. You're playing that style, old school Sacramento Kings basketball style. It's usually going to turn out in your favor. This one did not, but it definitely brought the Kings all the way back almost. The Kings got within 5 points. It was a 5-point game with a minute and a half to go. What absolutely killed the Kings last night. And I get that the Kings had a ton of offensive rebounds. They had 17, but the offensive rebounds for Denver last night, 15, way too many. Denver's too good. 15 is a hard number, against any team in the NBA, but Denver giving them that many second opportunities, good night now. Not going to happen. So that ended up being too much. But at the end of the day, I'm going to say it this way. The Kings gave you more than you paid for last night. Most teams would have rolled over when they were down that big at halftime with a night of travel like they had. And yes, the crew also talked about what time they got in, talked about the schedule of the day. It was a very bizarre broadcast in very many ways. Anyways, the Kings end up losing it. Now, the notable conversation going on right now, and we're going to talk about it. It's the headline of the show. De'Aaron Fox's finger. What's going on with Foxy? Here's the deal. I don't know exactly what's wrong with De'Aaron's finger. I don't think any of us know exactly what's wrong with his finger. In fact, the NBA doesn't know what is wrong with De'Aaron Fox's finger because it has never been on an injury report. He hasn't missed a game for it. Fair enough. He has not missed a game for that finger. So if it doesn't need to be on the report and the Kings aren't doing anything against the rules, cool. It is what it is. Guys play through things all the time. But it also looked like at some point in the first half, De'Aaron jammed a finger, possibly his thumb, on his right hand, which really threw gasoline onto the fire that was already fueling. In fact, check this out. The last 3 games, De'Aaron, he is shooting 25 of 63. Let me repeat that. 25 of 63 from beyond the arc in the last 3 games. The Kings played 3 games without Foxy. One of those 3 arguably being the best game of the season against the Boston Celtics. In those 3 games, the Kings were a plus 17.5. 17.5. In the 6 games since De'Aaron's returned, the Kings are a plus 2.5. Now, that's not putting the onus on De'Aaron. De'Aaron is not the reason that the differential is 15 points off. But there's a conversation around De'Aaron and the differential and the team's performance. And I think it's a little bit along these lines. How does De'Aaron Fox fit in with this new style that the Kings are running? It's a much different style than Mike Brown to a degree. Now, you can't just give Doug Christie all the credit for it either, because Mike Brown's the one that put Malik Monk in the starting lineup. That's when the Kings went more to an offense centered around the pick and roll, with Malik Monk being the playmaker rather than an offense centered around the dribble handoff with Domantas Sabonis. What you commonly have seen for the last 2 years leading up to that point. So with a new, little bit of a different offense, guys that are getting more minutes and playing much better and growing, i.e. Keon Ellis, how does De'Aaron Fox fit? How about DeMar DeRozan? The last 3-game stretch that he's had. Incredible. DeMar's been playing awesome. But there's only so many of those opportunities on a basketball team when you're an ISO player. Because if you give them double the opportunities between 2 guys, the game's going to be too slow for a team like the Kings. So the question now becomes, and I think that's why that differential speaks to it, how does De'Aaron Fox's game fit into how the Kings want to play? Doug Christie took some questions after the game. We're going to listen to the first part of it. Here was Doug after the game.
Within 5 at the end of that game, how pleased or proud are you?
Actually, that's going to be the, you know what? No, that is the first one. My bad. Coach Christie.
Within 5 at the end of that game, how pleased or proud are you of the guys for getting there?
Yeah, very, very pleased, but that's obviously not the outcome that we want. We don't use excuses of the back-to-back and the altitude and the number across the chest of however many feet we're up at sea level and all that. It's part of what it is. I've been here, I've played, you get a second win and all of a sudden you're good. And I thought that we burned through that and, we started to find our way a little bit but you gotta give them credit. They're at home. They're playing at a really high level right now. And we ran into a bit of a buzzsaw, and we didn't back away. That was part of my message into them. We do not back up. We do not step to the side. We go forward every time, regardless of the opponent.
Fox, we know Fox is dealing with the pinky on the left hand. Seems like something's going on with the right hand too, maybe the thumb. What can you say about that?
I haven't had a chance to see. I know medical, if that is, they will be looking at him, and I will get a report on it. But right now, he's Fox, so I'm not really. I don't worry about it. I hear a lot of stuff. I don't worry about him the same way a lot of people do. When he breaks through, he'll be fine. He's going to continue to be the gravity that we need as a special player. He understands how to draw double teams, get off the rock, help your teammates defensively. There are ways to impact the game. And again, for me, what he does not get equated by the box score. He does so much more.
Anything else for Coach?
Coach, a little bit more about the fight that you're talking about. How does this resiliency that, trying to come back from that deficit really bring this team together amidst that type of adversity?
It's difficult sometimes because you're on the road, you're facing good team. Like, there are a lot of different things that go against you. And these are the times, like, I love being on the road because it's time for us to come together. It's a time for us to fight like this. It's a time for us to learn about each other. It's a time for us to find our footing in a way that if you want to be good in this league, it's an absolute must. You got to go on the road and you got to make things happen. And I think games like this, moments like this, regardless of the outcome, continue to bolster their mindset about who they are and who they can be. And to me, that's everything.
So that was our first clip of Doug after the game, talking about De'Aaron, talking about the effort. Fenchie, dude, who are you paying $10 to? I have not instituted a fine system around here. Is somebody getting money? What's going on? Tristan, are you putting rules in here, my man? You better run it by our attorney first. Hold on. Let me call the attorney. Can Tristan institute rules?
It's outrageous, egregious, preposterous.
No, Tristan, my man. John, save your money. Cristobal, what's up from Guadalajara? How's it going, man? Thanks for being here. I am doing wonderful. Wonderful. We've got more Kings basketball tomorrow. We've got a lot to talk about, including the All-Star game and the changes made to it. Adam Silver talked a lot about the game itself. And get this. I'm just going to throw it out and we'll talk about it more here in a little bit. But the NBA is looking to possibly expand into Europe. Now, that's not new to us. We've known that. But what I find ironic about the NBA putting all this time and effort into possibly starting another league. So when I say expand to Europe, it's not putting NBA teams currently in Europe. It's expanding and making a new league altogether for that part of the world. How are you going to do that when your product is not very good right now? Wouldn't you want to improve the existing product first? I mean, I didn't go to business school, but I do know that you usually want to have the right model to duplicate. Isn't that why franchises fail? Because they grow too fast? Because the product, the process is not tight? Just saying. And then here's the other thing about that. What if you put that other league in Europe and the style of basketball in Europe is much more enjoyable to watch? than its big brother here in the States. Think about that. So a lot of stuff to digest from his press conference, including addressing the 3-point line. Thought that was good. Let's see. Tristan with a smiley face. That one came through. Love seeing Dougie. Yeah, you know what? Grant and I dissented when it came to that. Oh, I want to see, he needs to do that for more games. No, bullshit. Sorry, Grant. Not trying to say your take is bullshit. I'm just saying bullshit in this sense. Doug McDermott's not going to get those opportunities. It's not why he's on the team. Doug McDermott's on the Kings for situations just like that. Break the glass, pull the lever, and see if the guy can knock down a few shots. Came in the game. He made 5 of 6 threes. They were seeking him out. They were trying to get him looks, and damn it, it was falling. That's what happens with shooters. That is, in my mind, maybe your expectations were different coming into the season, but in my mind, that's exactly why you signed Doug McDermott. And on the back end, too, he's been an incredible professional in terms of coaching the young guys up, showing them the ropes, introducing them to officials. Both him and Jay Crowder have been incredible about that, regardless about playing time. So I thought Doug did exactly what he is supposed to do. And here's the other part of it. He might play himself into a few minutes here and there from that performance. You know why? Kevin Huerter looks like he has hit rock bottom. And we're going to look at the numbers over the last 6 games, over the last 3 games. Kevin Huerter has barely played. He played 6 minutes last night. I think he played right around 6 minutes in the Warriors game. In the game before that, against Washington, before it got to garbage time, he had only played 6 minutes. So I don't know if you're trying to kind of put him on ice and keep him healthy. Maybe he's played his way out of the rotation. I would say the second of those two is the more likely. And here's the other thing. Devin Carter, he only played 3 minutes. And I know we have a very small sample size of Devin Carter right now, but it seems pretty clear to me, at least in my opinion, watching Devin. All of a sudden, he is forcing things on the offensive end. If I'm a coach on that coaching staff, if I'm a player, a veteran on that coaching staff, I'm saying, young man, come sit down. Just go play basketball. Just go do what you did in your first appearance for the Kings. Just go do that. That's all we need. Just let the game come to you. We don't need you to score 50 points. We don't need you to huck up a lot of threes. We don't need you to play make. We need you to play defense, because you know what's going to happen? When he does that, the defense is going to turn into offense. Now, whether it shows up in the box score for him as a point or as an assist or whatever it may be, who knows? But that's what's going to happen. When we've seen the best Devin Carter, that's how he's played. It looks like he's forcing it a little bit right now. So, but I did love seeing Dougie, and you're spot on about Kevin. How do you rate Domas's performance versus Jokic? Near triple-double by Domas. Really strong. Really strong. The Kings did not really double Jokic last night. And again, that other factor of spreading the Kings out, that hurt Domas a lot. Now, here's where I am going to push back, though, a little bit, and it's on the offensive end for Domas. I thought he should have been far more aggressive taking shots on the perimeter, because I thought the Kings' best chance offensively was to get Domas going a little bit more on the perimeter. And up until last night, the numbers bared it out with his three-point shooting. He was the best three-point shooting big in the league. He might still be. I don't know. But that's how they could have opened up the half court a little bit more, in my opinion. So offensively, I would have liked a little bit of a different scheme, but he's got to play what coach asks him to do. 19 rebounds, 8 assists, and 23 points for Domas last night. Pretty damn good overall. Sanchez, you think there's any fix for teams spreading out the Kings defense without a trade? You know, I don't, to be honest with you. it's going to have to come from within, because a lot of times that starts on the perimeter. The easiest fix to that, but it's a little bit of a lazy fix, and it's really putting a Band-Aid over a gaping wound. It's running the zone defense. And the zone defense is not meant to be ran for, I don't know, 20 minutes a night. You can get a good 8 to 10 minutes out of it, but it's not 8 to 10 minutes usually of straight zone defense. It's usually mixed in with man-to-man defense. So I think the guys just got to pick it up and guard a little bit better. But, you know, maybe Doug looks at, see that was the WD-40. I muted myself so you guys wouldn't go crazy. You need to maybe look at some of the combinations that you have playing on the perimeters. There's something you could do a little bit different, but I'm not gonna break down and criticize what Doug's done, because I think Doug's doing a really good job, and he struck a chord that I think is really important to recognize for this city individually. And there was this debate about, and Malik Monk said, hey, he played the game, you know. And when I think about coaches who have played and coaches that have not played, yes, maybe coaches that have played have a better instinct for very, very small things. Most times those small things don't turn into big things, but once in a while, that small thing, if you hit it right on, it can turn a game around. I concede that, basically. But Doug realizes that in this market, and maybe it's something because he played here in the best era of Kings basketball. He's seen what's worked at its best here in Sacramento. I don't know. And tell me if you disagree. I think there might just be a style of Kings basketball that will always, or should always, be part of the culture, part of the fabric, part of the construction of the game plans for Kings basketball. I don't care who the coach is. I think Kings basketball at its best is chaotic. It's in your face. It's not backing down. It's effort. I mean, Doug's hit the nail on the freaking head when it comes to the non-negotiables and the byproduct of it usually. Now, last night's byproduct, again, it went in the wrong column, but it was damn close to going the other way. And look at the circumstances of that game coming into it and where that game got. And the Kings still came all the way back. So, you know, I think it takes a unique person as a coach to concede whatever their scheme is and involved the Sacramento scheme, no matter who you are. And in Doug's case, he has made the Sacramento scheme everything that this team's playing around. So tell me if you think I am wrong. I would love to know. Yeah, Tristan, dude, don't be taking people's money, Tristan. Come on, dude. Yeah, I got your back, Finchy. Had the Nuggets game not been a back-to-back, I think the Kings would win. I don't disagree with you, Peter. I think it's a decent take. What's up, Donald? How you doing today? Happy to be here. Again, I'm asking. I asked last night, is this Domas or is this Chewbacca? Who is that? Domas or Chewbacca going to the hoop? I need to see Doug be consistent. I agree. He's not going to get the minutes. But yeah, who else is going to take him? Devin Carter played 3 minutes. Who else is going to take him? Keon can't. There's not 2 Keons. Keon played 21 last night. Let's see. Great take. Appreciate that, Sanchez. You think that's Chewy, huh? Let's see. I don't know. You'll have to pick me up. It was such a bizarre ending to the show, the pregame show last night. That threw me off. That was really weird. That was so weird. It's like one of those things that I'm like trying to work out in my head. And there's like, it's not work out. I've already got it worked out. Excuse me. It's like trying to think about the logic of it. How many different ways it was so wrong. So anyways, LMAO Chewy. His name is Chewy, but he has no teeth. I don't know. Maybe it's Sabaka. I think it's Sabaka. You guys have Saboner? King's Court has Sabaka. Boom. I have a cat named Chewy. He sounds just like that. No, listen for it now. Now that you've heard it, so it is a cut of Domas and Chewbacca together. But listen for Domas when the mic picks him up when he's driving to the rim. He's got such a deep and distinguishable like roars, kind of like that. So, anyways, I love it. I think it's pretty cool.
I want winners.
And that's a winner. It's for sure a winner, Coach Singletary. So a lot to go over today. Thanks for joining us. We have not even scratched the surface on the De'Aaron Fox conversation around his finger. We're going to be getting that in a few minutes. Let's talk really quick about tomorrow night. Going to be a heck of a matchup. The Knicks and the Kings. Usually these two teams have played close games as of late. You look at the Knicks roster, and it should be really no match. No offense, Kings fans. The Knicks are freaking stacked. But that does not mean it's always going to win you basketball games. The Knicks have been up and down this year for the most part. They happen to be playing decent basketball right now. Jalen Brunson, a hell of a one. A perfect guy for Keon Ellis to stick tomorrow night. And maybe even a little bit of Keegan Murray throughout the game. But tomorrow is going to be a very physical battle. New York plays physical basketball. That's where the Kings want to live as well. Grant said last night, De'Aaron Fox usually plays his best in Madison Square Garden. So hopefully you get that pickup from him. Again, De'Aaron in the last 3 games, 25 of 63 from the field. 25 of 63. He led the Kings last night in shots. He shot 24 times. 24 times. It's a lot of shots. DeMar DeRozan, 9 of 16. Keegan, 4 of 10. 5 of 13 for Malik. Malik's been struggling as well. And Domas, 21 shots. So he was second most there. No problem with that. Looking at the matchup, injuries, not going to be a thing as of now. That's very early, though. That could change. No spread set yet, but you can bet it's probably going to be balanced a little bit in the Knicks' favor. The Knicks are resting tonight, no game, so they will be fresh as well. Historically, last season, this is what happened between these two teams. I point to the 100 to 1, or no, that was the one in New York. Let's see. What was the one? Excuse me. I'm looking at the head-to-head record. I point to the bottom game, the March 16th game. Now, yesterday we talked about a game last season against Denver that kind of built who the Kings were going to be the second half of the season with all the injuries, the style of basketball that they were going to play. And that's the first time that we saw the Kings win an ugly game, win a game in a manner that we had not seen the Beam team win, and even that team up until that point in the season without having a full roster. Well, I'm going to point to this one. 98-91. The Kings lost this game. It was in the Golden One Center, but it was one of the most memorable games of the season for me. It was such a fun game. I remember the tweet that I sent out. I said, this is like 1980s, 1990s Kings basketball. It was physical. It was a grind. You had to work to earn every single step and every single stat in that one. I expect tomorrow, if it's going to go in the Kings' favor, for it to be very similar. It's also a game that contributed to the rule change this season. It was a game that was only a couple points off. The Kings were down by a couple, and Malik Monk was shoved out of bounds. And go figure. Oh, Tristan. Thank you, Tristan. Very much, dude. Thank you very much. Finchy's $10 back. To me, no, now I gotta get it to John. Tristan, no, thank you very much. The super chats always mean a ton to us. They go back to the channel. We don't base what we do in taking your comments on whether you pay or not. We're just happy that you're here. So anytime we get them, we are greatly appreciative. Thank you, my man, Tristan. Very cool on a Friday. Back to that rule really quick. Malik was shoved out and there was clearly a foul. They could do nothing about that. But the Knicks challenged it because they gave the ball to the Kings. And when the refs looked at the replay, what happens? Well, Malik was out of bounds. So the Knicks got the ball back. That ended up kind of being the game from there out. Also, the late matchup between these two teams, that was that weird road trip. I believe this is also the game where that was in Boston, where Colby Jones got fouled. This was also a game that ended up in the 2-minute report, the 120-109 loss to the Knicks. So they played them fairly tough. It is a different Knicks team right now because they're still trying to work in Karl Anthony Towns. But Patrick, I'm not sure if he's here. He would be able to speak to this so much better because he's in Long Island and is a big Knicks fan. But they're just so deep. The Knicks, especially on the front line. The front line is you look at Brunson and you think, okay, he's the guy. He is. And what he did by taking the pay cut to be able to, do more things with the roster and win a championship in New York. I love that. I think it's great. You don't see it enough in pro sports these days. But the front line is stacked in New York. You've got Cat. You've got Precious Achua, who's an incredible player who fills these little holes when guys aren't playing well. You got Mikal Bridges. So it's going to be a tall task for the Kings, and I wonder what Doug McDermott's going to do to counter that, Doug Christie's going to do to counter that tomorrow outside of heavy minutes from your starters, very heavy minutes. Donald remembers the game. I just remember the Kings kept blitzing Brunson. That strategy worked against them. It did work against them because the Knicks were a little bit different. You know who killed the Kings? Josh Hart. Josh freaking Hart. I think he had like 16 rebounds in that matchup, the first one in Sacramento. So it should be a fun one. Josh Hart's still a part of that backcourt in New York. Josh Hart, who would be a perfect fit here in Sacramento. You want to do a trade, New York? Maybe. That's New York's upcoming schedule, so you can see that they're still pretty smooth sailing. Here's the Eastern Conference as we sit today. The Knicks underachieving a little bit, although still in third in the East. They'll keep climbing that as the season goes along. I would not be surprised if they catch Boston. Cleveland going nowhere. But there's the Eastern Conference picture. Look at all the negative net ratings in the East. It's crazy. Negative 0.01 for Indiana. And by the way, we're going to talk about it a little bit more when we hear from Adam Silver. This whole thing in Paris, what a joke. You're going to make the Pacers go to Paris in the middle of the season and play Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs? Are you freaking kidding me? It's like Wemby Week in Paris, like Fashion Week, but Wemby Week. Hell, it might be Fashion Week too. I heard Chris Paul was at a fashion show earlier today. But what a joke. In the middle of the season, you're going to make a team go all the way to freaking Paris for an international event that has really nothing to do about basketball. Get out of here. This is all about the NBA expanding into the international market. So anyways, we'll talk more about the Knicks. We've certainly got a lot to talk about with De'Aaron Fox. I want to get your takes on the situation. And I genuinely mean this when I ask this question. And I know it has nothing to do with his finger, but I mean this. What do you all see De'Aaron Fox's role being with this team right now? I think we have seen this team at its best, at times with him and at times without him. And if you say at its best, it's not his 60-point game. It's not his 49-point game, because both of those were games where it was clear out and just let De'Aaron go on one-on-one. So it was a great individual performance, but I'm talking about as a team. What's De'Aaron Fox's role? What should it be? Some people really liked what he did a couple of games ago against the Warriors. A lot of people did not like what he did last night. It was a big discussion point. And I truly wonder if you see these pieces that are forming together. De'Aaron's not stupid. He knows more about basketball than all of us. His pinky knows more about basketball than all of us because he's played the game his entire life. He's played it at a higher level than any of us, unless you've been in the NBA, have played it. He's got to be able to see that, okay, Keon on the way up fits with just about anybody. There's no doubt that De'Aaron sees the chemistry between Monk and Sabonis. Keegan, still a big project for the Kings. So what's De'Aaron's spot? What's he supposed to do? In some ways, is it fair to De'Aaron? Because it certainly looks like De'Aaron Fox is going to have to fit in with what the Kings are doing. Doesn't look like the Kings are going to fit to De'Aaron's strengths. And I actually agree with that approach. That's how it should be. So we'll see. Give me your takes on what you expect from him, what you think, and we'll go from there. I think it's a really good hire, to be honest with you. I think it's a good hire. Talking about Pete Carroll to the Raiders. Look, he's experienced. It's probably not a long-term hire. He's 80 years old. He's won an NFL championship. He's won a college championship. Pete Carroll just gets through to guys. He just gets it. And Pete can do a lot with very little, if that makes any sense. Like Russell Wilson, when he came into the NFL, 3rd round pick, Russ just had to be good enough to get that team over the hump. Now, Russ threw a beautiful deep ball. He was elusive at times. He could keep plays alive, but he just had to do enough. They never asked him to do too much. I mean, as a Seattle Seahawks fan that lived those championships, Russ was either throwing a little floater deep ball over the linebackers, but before the safety, or they were slants, or you're handing off to Marshawn because your defense was so strong. I think that if the Raiders, and that's the big if the Raiders let him do his job, and it's not going to be overnight, it's going to take a couple of years, but I think Pete Carroll, you might not see the immediate results that you're hoping for your Raiders fan, but quietly, he's going to be building a foundation for the Raiders. He's going to be empowering coordinators. He's going to be getting the most out of those players. 73. Thanks for picking me up. He's going to be getting the most out of those players, and players love to play for him. So I think it's a really good play, and I think it does, in turn, take a little bit of pressure off of the Raiders to go out and get a star quarterback or a number 1 in the draft. I think that Pete Carroll is good enough with that position that they can get something that works. Are we really going here? Championship year. Yeah, no, I could say championships. They won 2 NFC championships back to back. Hey, Haunted Horse, when was the last time you guys won a championship? Hey, Haunted Horse. What am I supposed to do with that comment?
Cannot win with him. Cannot coach with him. Can't do it.
Can't do it. What am I supposed to do with that? Hunter Horse, get your ass in here. Get your ass in here and explain yourself. Just call the show. You usually come on it anyways. If you are new to the King's Court, we are doing, and we haven't talked about it a ton this week, but we are doing our March tournament. Our March Movie Madness tournament. I am currently constructing the brackets. You have until probably the first week of February to get your nominations in. We are taking the 32 best sports movies and we are going to put them into a bracket in March and we are going to vote and we're going to vote it down until we have the best sports movie out there. So we've gotten a ton, and I mean a ton of movies already sent in, and we're going to keep that process going. So as you're thinking about it, if something pops into mind, throw it in the chat. We'll make sure to add it to the list. And as I said, we've still got a ton of stuff to cover today between the Kings, the NBA. We've got a really good NBA talk coming up, and definitely a lot more on De'Aaron Fox and the game tomorrow night. We can talk some more about last night as well, and then your calls. Obviously, your calls today as well. Flores, yes, that was Mike Singletary. You nailed it, my man.
Cannot win with him. Cannot coach with him. Can't do it.
Singletary's such a different guy. Cannot win with him. Won't win with him. Can't do it. Won't do it. He is such a different guy.
Cannot win with him. Cannot coach with him. Can't do it.
2 years ago, the 49ers won the NFC Championship, but I don't call that a championship. Only Super Bowls. Yeah. Yeah, it's been a while since the Niners won that Super Bowl, my man. This is a haunted horse, and I just go back and forth. Oh, I've got 5 of them. Yeah, well, I'd rather have 5 than just one recently. It's all about what you've done for me lately, dude. You're like Jerry Rice, man, living in the past, putting your chain on, wearing your old Niners gear, running around the field like you're relevant. Is there anybody more corny than Jerry Rice these days? I'll give Joe Montana a pass, even though he wears Skechers. But come on, man. Jerry Rice, the act that he pulls on the sidelines at Niners games, he's like the 49ers Mark Jones, man. It's bad. It is very bad. Is he going to show up? He is going to show up. What's up, dude?
Hey, what's up? I just got done with my workout, so I literally am throwing on. Hell, this shirt isn't even one of my usuals. Anyway, what's up, dude?
What's up, man? Happy Friday.
So I would like to ask your audience this. Would they have rather had 5 Kings championships like 20 years ago, 25 years ago, 5 Kings championships, 5 championships, or would they rather have had one that was like 9 years ago?
Here we go.
I'm just saying.
Here we go.
5 myself.
Dude, you guys are the most like I don't know.
Arrogant.
Yes. And by the way, some of you, where was this? Where did I see this? Here we go. It's right here. Let me read this.
Tristan push-ups, yes.
As someone tonight, or someone at tonight's game, and I'm going to group you in right now with the Warriors fans, because you're a Niners fan. This was a Warriors fan taking to a subreddit about their experience at the Golden One Center. The amount of obnoxious drunks at the game screaming "Light the Beam" was insane. Had multiple dudes mock me for wearing a Warriors hat, parentheses, despite me minding my own business, and I could take all of this if they were at least a successful franchise. But holy shit, they are obnoxious for being arguably the most pathetic franchise in NBA history. I've been to a lot of sporting events in my life, and these people were hands down the most obnoxious fan base I've been around. Anyways, I'm done with my rant. Like, okay, hold on. Let's break it down.
Wait a minute. Wait just a damn minute. First of all, I want to go to one thing you said.
Yeah.
You're going to lump me in with the Golden State Warriors fans because I'm a Niner fan.
Yes.
I'm a Trailblazer fan. I live in Portland, but okay, then I'm going to lump you in as a Niner fan because you're a Kings fan, because you're closer to that team. So you're not a Seahawks anymore. You're a 49er fan.
Well, you're representing the Niners right now. So anyways, no, it's just like
a Blazer fan, which is worse.
I would have so much more respect for that comment if that person would have been during the Oracle days for the Warriors, because the fan base for the Warriors that goes to games and the atmosphere of games have completely changed.
Well, right.
Since they
It's
moved to the Chase
all
Center.
corporate people. You can't afford a ticket
100%.
if you're a common fan.
100%.
So, which is when I went to my first Giants game, that was amazing because you can be a common person there. The tickets aren't going to, baseball tickets aren't going to break the bank. And that was an amazing experience. But yeah, you go to a basketball game now. Now, Blazer tickets are cheap because they're horrible. So I can probably get a ticket to go to a Blazer game for like $25-$30. But yeah. So
Any
anyway.
movement on getting us that third team for Jeremy Grant?
You know what? He would do really well on your team.
You think so?
That would be a good fit. I just don't know how you guys are going to acquire him, because what we want is we want to get rid of salary and we want draft picks, and we're getting rid of old players. We're yeah. So I don't know how. I don't know what you guys would have to get a third something. I don't know, but that would be a good move if you guys could get him.
Yeah,
he'd be a good fit.
He makes a decent amount of money though. That's the
I don't. Yeah, and I don't know what your cap he does. That's why they want to get rid of him.
Jeremy Grant is
$29
making 29.8 this year.
Yeah. Would that fit into your cap system? Obviously, you had salary to get him, but you would have to trade player pieces to. They don't want the Trailblazers don't want your pieces. They want young like draft picks.
We would have to do definitely Trey and Kevin. That gets you to 24, and maybe Len and a G leaguer. Lennon, Orlando. Oh no, Orlando's gone. Lennon, maybe Colby Jones. Yeah.
And what team would want those pieces? That's the thing.
Well,
the Blazers might take one or two.
Right.
But they're not, and they don't have room for all that because we have all this youth, and you don't know what you have yet until they've played.
Yep.
So they're not going to get rid of youth that has potential. So, have the Cowboys won a Super Bowl more recently? I can't remember. I remember the last one was Steve Young. That was I was spoiled, dude, because I was a Niner fan, late 70s, so I didn't have to have these long waits for championships. I mean, I had to wait 10 years, or not even that, like 7 years, 6 years.
I think the Niners are going to be. I don't think they're going to be close for the foreseeable future.
They're in trouble because they need to dump some salary. The Rams did it. I keep saying that the Rams were in salary cap hell, and they flipped that thing around in a couple of years. You can do it.
Yeah, but you don't have Sean McVay.
I would say Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan. I would put McVay ahead of Shanahan, but I don't know that it's that big of a drop.
Here to me is the drop, and it's just my perception. I guess X's and O's I couldn't say, but Shanahan seems really freaking stubborn and set in his ways.
Oh, I agree.
I think that really at times hurt the Niners this year. Like when they were not playing, when McCaffrey came back, it's like, we're not going to mix in Jordan Mason. We're not going to mix in Garendo, even though both of those guys, Mason was leading the league in rushing, right? Same thing at the receiver position when Pearsall was still out. They had another young guy that should have getting play or minutes over, what was it, Robbie Chosen or whatever.
That one drops off my radar. I was thinking, I'm trying to pull the name of the guy that really stepped up, who I said would be good. Once, dude, I am gone. I can't even think of the player that ripped his ACL right now. The wide receiver. Who's the wide receiver that held out? And I can't even pull that name right now. He held out.
Ayuk?
Yes. So when Ayuk went down, remember I told you that the guy that was playing slot that stepped up begins with J.
Oh,
anyway.
Oh, you're talking about
I can't pull that name. I can see his face. I can't pull the name. Yeah. Anyway, I like Someone in the chat, please. Gosh. Anyway, thank you for pulling it up. I'm so tired. I'm not even freaking trying to pull it up.
Juwan Jennings.
Juwan Jennings. I got the J right. He's cheap and he's a stud. And so, yeah, we've got to get rid of some play. You know what? We have to have a discussion on McCaffrey. He makes a lot of money.
You just extended him.
I know. And I don't know what that would mean, but I don't know where his legs are going to be. Tendonitis in both Achilles. I mean, rest does anyway. We're in trouble. You're right.
I guess, like, how do you and I have had this conversation on the show. Like, I don't get how you don't do a physical on that guy. Like, before you extend him, even if you were babysitting him, like,
he overtrained. So
I just don't understand. Like, I don't know what they're. I seriously mean this. Why would Brock Purdy choose the Niners over a different team if they would pay him the same amount of money?
Oh, if I'm Brock Purdy, I stay there because it's comfortable and he showed his limitations towards the end. I don't know any team that's going to pay him more than the Niners will. I'm trying to think. Is there that team out there? It wouldn't be Minnesota if they want to move away from I can't, dude, my names are failing. Darnold. They which they probably will because they're not going to offer him all that money with what happened at the end of the season. 2 games looking horrible. They're going to stick with the rookie. So Darnold might be on the move. I don't see where Purdy would go. Dallas, they don't want another retread. They got burned with trading the 2nd round pick. I can't pull names. I wonder if I'm having a stroke. I can't pull anybody's name right now. I can't pull that kid's name that we traded that was our number 6 pick.
How many Trey Lance?
Trey Lance. I literally had the T, just like I had the J. Anyway.
What about Brock Purdy in a Niner or in a Raiders jersey?
Dude. I'm ruining your show.
You all right, man? You good?
Oh, I'm tired. It's been a long week. I'm gassed. Like I said, I worked out. Usually I'm prepped. I've got my charts up. I've got my teams up. And you were just calling me out, so I had to come in here, and now I look like an idiot. There you go.
Well, go take a nap, man. I appreciate you coming.
I'm not going to take a nap, but yeah. Anyway, so everyone have a good time. I will say this: every time I hear you, the shows, Grant, Jerry, or whatever, and you guys are talking, I'm telling you right now, from my opinion, which means nothing.
Yeah,
trade Fox. The team, the ball moves better without him. He has a good. We were talking about this, you and I, in chat in text. Jeremy Grant was worth more last year than you should. We held him too long. You should have moved him last year. Don't hold Fox too long. He's at his peak value right now. Move on from him. Get some pieces and enhance your bench. I'm telling you right now. That's what they need to do. That's what they need to do. We did it with Lillard. You guys need to do it with Fox.
Yeah.
7 years on the team. You know what you got. The ball moves better without him. Move him. I don't know if your owner will do that, though, because the owners get freaky because they're afraid they're going to trade the player and then they're even going to step up to the next level at some other team. Well, that doesn't mean they were going to do that on your team.
It's a good
just
point.
means they're a better fit somewhere else.
It's a good point.
All right. Have a good weekend, everybody.
You too, buddy. Haunted horse coming in, having a stroke. That's not good. Hopefully that guy's okay. I'm sure he's going to be okay. We're going to go back to the phones here in just a few minutes. Yeah, he was not doing good. Take the L. I'm glad that he's all right. Anyways, yeah, the Niners, man, that's a weird situation. It's a weird situation. You got to wonder how much time, and it sounds like Robert Saleh is headed back, by the way, to the Niners. So I don't know how much time is left in the Shanahan-Lynch era. I think they've got to turn it around rather quickly, and who knows if that is going to happen. I still want to talk about this guy, Adam Silver. He had a press conference yesterday in Paris, France, ahead of the first game. I think he might be having a stroke. Look, no way I am gassed out. I could take a nap if I lay down. Go lay down. Go chill, my man. Go rest. Rest it up. Yeah, Haunted Horse. He gassed himself out, man. Haunted Horse. Kick up your feet. Relax. Pop some popcorn. Grab a cold drink.
Let's go see a porno.
And go watch a movie. Go chill. Go do something. He actually has a show later today. So go check him out indeed. Really quick, before we get to Adam Silver and before we get to Adam, the All-Star starters came out, and I want to make you feel a little bit better about yourself, Sacktown. So there is a little bit of drama here about the starters. So your Western Conference backcourt, Steph Curry, SGA, no big surprises there. Jokic, LeBron, and Durant on the front line. And by the way, NBA Today, Clippers, that was pathetic what you did earlier today. I don't watch a lot of those studio shows. I don't, but I had it on in the background. I had some extra time. I decided to take a 15-minute break, lay down for a second, and they had Norman Powell on the show. And Danny Green, who was one of the analysts today, he the whole point of Norman Powell being on, it was like a political rally to get him onto the All-Star team. It's all they talked about. Danny Green's going on, just dropping lefts and rights and leg drops and drop kicks on other players that might be deserving as a reserve and making the case why it should be Norman Powell. So saying Kevin Durant is in the starters, not a big surprise, but we're going to get to it in a second. Eastern Conference, Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, which was actually on the Donovan Mitchell part, a little bit of a tiny bit of surprise. Look, Cavs are playing on great. Here's the thing, though. We said it for a minute that team awards, or excuse me, individual awards are as much about what your team is doing as what the player is doing. If your team's doing well, then you're going to get the nod over somebody else. And that's why I say in the Kings case, although he is more deserving, I don't think Domas will be a reserve. He might make it on if somebody gets hurt or doesn't go to the game. But I don't think he's initially going to be a reserve. I think it's going to end up being Şengün in Houston because of what the Rockets are doing. I hope I'm wrong. So you've got Mitchell and Brunson in the backcourt. Front court, you've got Giannis, Catmate? Karl Anthony Towns? What? And Jason Tatum. So the controversy revolves around, yes, believe it or not, LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball averaging 29.5 points a game, 7.5 assists this season, and he was the leading vote getter. He was the leading vote getter amongst the East guards at 2.4 million votes. So the way that it's calculated for the starters is the fans get 50% of the vote, 50%. The player vote is 25%, and the other 25% is the media vote. I'm not saying the NBA has it right with their balance, but what I am saying is MLB has it all wrong. The fact that you have sports writers, we're not talking about executives. We're not talking about players. We're not talking about Hall of Famers. We're talking about sports writers. You have sports writers who are responsible for voting people into the Hall of Fame. Sports writers who maybe didn't get the interview they wanted, who maybe just weren't a fan of the way a guy played. Or maybe a guy screwed their team over even though they are objective. Maybe it's not their team that they're writing about. Maybe their team is another team. But for that to comprise of your electorate, the writers alone, that's wrong. Tell him, Charles.
That's terrible.
It is. Ichiro, he was not a unanimous first ballot Hall of Famer. One sports writer held out. And now Ichiro, by the way, has offered for that one writer to come to his house and have a drink with him. How about that? Really interesting stuff there. So anyways, back to LaMelo really quick. So LaMelo did not make the starters. He's got some pretty good numbers. And, you know, we'll see. Several people in the media, he was 7th, in the media voting. And that is what probably held him up. Kenny Smith was not very happy about it. And Ernie Johnson, a few others were commenting on it. But at the end of the day, you can't really argue about Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell. It's like one of those things where it's who's better. It's both are deserving. We're not arguing if you're deserving. It's just who is more deserving. So that's how the East rolls out. The bigger conversation that I want to have with everybody today is more around the All-Star game. We're also going to get to Adam in just 2 seconds, but I want to wrap back to the Kings. First, here was Doug Christie after last game. We're going to look at some Knicks stats in between last night, talking about the loss for the Kings.
First half got a little away from us. Obviously, a 40-point quarter is not what we want, but they know how to play. They're extremely well coached, and when you put all that together, you got a hill to climb. But our guys were ready for the fight. Like I said, it didn't, and that happens here sometimes. You know, early on they get running, and that's part of what they do is their transition game.
You guys can't hear the sound? Really?
At a high level. They want to get out and run, create some easy buckets, then all of a sudden the threes.
No sound for Doug? Weird. Interesting. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, you're good. You can hear Doug. All right. That was weird. Here's Doug. We'll finish it out.
First half got a little away from us. Obviously, a 40-point quarter is not what we want, but that's the type of fight and resiliency that we want. And talking to them is like, listen, if we fight and we're resilient in that way, the byproduct of most nights in this association will be a win. And if it's not, you're giving yourselves a chance to win. So from that standpoint, I don't like to lose, but it's part of it.
Doug, what'd you make of the big like ebbs and flows in the energy tonight? Obviously, we're on the second night of a back-to-back, but there were stretches where you guys had it and then stretches where maybe it wasn't there.
Yeah, it's part of our game. Like we also have to recognize that our opponent is really good. Like they have some dudes over there that can play at a high level. They know how to play. They're extremely well coached. And when you put all that together, you got a hill to climb. But our guys were ready for the fight. Like I said, it didn't. And that happens here sometimes. You know, early on they get running, and that's part of what they do is their transition game is at a high level. They want to get out and run, create some easy buckets. Then all of a sudden the threes start flowing, playing through Jokic. You get your easy back doors. But the fight that our guys continue to show, continue to fight all the way to the end, that's what I expect out of them. And I believe that that's what they're expecting out of themselves, even more so.
Okay. And one of the dudes they have is obviously the 3-time MVP.
Yeah.
Monster numbers from him tonight. Just what can you say about his performance, the ridiculous buzzer beater, and just what he's like to?
So there we go. There was DC last night. Sorry, there was no sound. My bad, y'all. We are talking Kings. Progressive, welcome in. Welcome in. Thanks for everybody for the heads up on that. We'll make sure that does not happen again. Sabonis needs help. Like, this team is literally handicapping itself by having a solid backup for him defensively, grabbing rebounds. Yeah, it depends on what they think the style is going to be. Something tells me, in Progressive, I'm not saying you're wrong. I think there's a solid argument there. Something tells me this team seems okay with being a little undersized. It feels like the vibe that I'm getting is they think that there's a mismatch at times in their favor with that teams have to adjust to them. Now, in certain cases, ain't going to be the case. Last night was one of them with Jokic, but you could counter argue that with, well, Jokic is kind of one of one, right? But we would see the same things with an Embiid. We would see the same things, not necessarily with Wemby. We've seen him a couple of times or one time this season, and that was mostly on the perimeter. But you get my drift, you get my feel. So would Valanciunas help that? Certainly. But what's that do for pace? What's that do for ball movement? Ball movement, I don't think would be a problem. But if you put a Valanciunas next to a Collins, how do they compare? How do you contrast? Can you play closer to the style that the Kings are playing now? So there's arguments both ways. I will say this, when you get closer to the end of the season and you get to where every possession matters, don't get me wrong, every possession matters now, but it's different in the playoffs. As fans watching the game, you know it's different. Like, when the team has the ball, the other team has the ball, you're just like praying you get the rebound and you get the ball back. Like, you are watching possession by possession, just like in baseball. When it comes down to the postseason, you're like pitch by pitch by pitch. But back to the point, when you get to April, May, June basketball, Lord willing, that's where having a big probably helps more than being undersized. The game slows down. It slows down a lot. So definitely a solid argument for both of those cases. Back to the phones really quick. We bring in a made man in this place.
Acknowledge me.
Uh-oh. He's setting something up. What's he doing? Oh, what's up? You know what? I think I have it somewhere. You got to bear with me. I had it somewhere. It's not on here right now. I put it on here. It's not on here. Yeah, that's right. Oh, you got the Hendry shirt and everything. He's a champion now.
It's the champ.
Good stuff. What's up, man? All the way from
What's up, bro?
Dallas. How you doing?
Yes, sir. I'm good, man. How are you? Long week. Same with old Horsey there. I think I can fall asleep and take a nap. But we're here.
It's the end of the week. Let's go.
That's it, baby. Let's
Light
go.
the damn beam.
Light the
Let's
beam.
light it. Light it up.
Oh, is
What's
that
going
Deuces?
on, my man?
Was that Deuces and Mo's drop too? Should I not play that?
Oh, who?
Yeah, right. Anyways, man, so how you feeling about these Kings, bro?
Good, man. I mean, last night it is what it is. I don't like to stay up till 3:30, 4 o'clock, or whatever in the morning they arrived in Denver. So I get it, man. Even when you sleep all day after a long day of travel, you still kind of got like shake the cobwebs out a little bit, right?
Yeah, look, I would say they gave us more than we bargained for. I thought that even though it wasn't evident in the score, I thought they were fighting pretty hard and playing pretty hard in that first half. It's Denver. I'm sorry. Jokic was in the midst now 5 straight games with a triple-double. And Jamal Murray was playing incredible. Russell Westbrook, haven't said his name yet, But the fact that they came back, the fact that they kept battling, I'm good with it. It's what Doug Christie says. As long as you do the non-negotiables, which are very simple and very straightforward, most times you're going to have the same end result. And it's a win. Last night it was not. But yeah, as long as they're able to bounce back, good.
Hey, and you can't be mad about, their record in the past, 13, 14 games.
No, it's been good.
I'll take that all day.
Yeah, this Fox stuff though, and we're going to talk about it more in a little bit. It is an interesting conversation to have. I think people got on me for being more negative on Fox, right? They're like, well, he's De'Aaron Fox. Like, he's been the guy here. He hasn't had enough help. And my take all along was always, I just don't know that you can win. It's very hard to win with that style of guard. And point me to another place where it works. Was Russ Westbrook ever got over the hump and win a championship on his own? No.
Yeah, but
James
Russ,
Harden, no. Go ahead.
I think Russ is maybe a different player. Like, I understand your argument that standalone talent-wise, the guy's incredible. Russ, at least, he was getting rebounds and assists.
Yeah,
I mean, he
that's a good point.
averaged a triple-double for an entire season twice. I love Russ. He's a wild boy, but I'm a big fan of that guy. I've always liked him. But
for sure. I just think we're at a point now, quite frankly, where you've seen these contrasting styles this season. You saw with Mike Brown, it was more of the constipated, you got to be in the right place, very structured, although he left some ambiguity to the players in terms of cuts and reads and whatever you want to say. But there was way more thinking and less playing. Now we're in a place where there's a lot less thinking and more playing. And through that, you've seen a core that could be very successful together. And that doesn't mean that core can't include De'Aaron Fox. But over the last 6 games since Foxy has been back, it's like, what's his part? Like, I don't know what De'Aaron Fox's role is. And Doug Christie has not been super clear about that either. He keeps saying, I'm not worried about Fox. I'm not worried about Fox. I'm not worried about Fox. He's a special guy. He'll break through. Great. But like, what's your role? I know what Keon's role is. I know what Keegan's role is. I know what Malik's role is. I know what Domas's role is. What's Fox's role?
yeah, I don't know. And I think the issue that I see is that we're playing well right now, with or without Fox. Um, I just don't think in my heart of hearts, come renegotiation time when his contract's up, that he ends up re-signing with us. Depending on our success this season, but does anybody here see us getting? I think it would take getting to the Western Conference Finals to really entice De'Aaron Fox to stay. But that being said, if we ride this thing out and maybe drag our feet a little bit, and we don't make any other moves outside of that, and we're not successful this season, I think we could just lose any value. And he walks for free, and we get nothing out of it.
Yeah, that's the last thing that can happen. 100%.
So,
with you 100%. Fox is too good for a role. All right. Progressive Fox is the glue of this team. See, I don't really agree with you, Progressive, there. The glue?
Our definition of glue must be different, because...
And that's the thing. That's fine. Everybody, go ahead. Everybody's definition's different.
when I think of a glue guy, I'm thinking of a Malik Monk, probably a Sabonis. Probably maybe a Keon Ellis to an extent. I think like those are team first guys in my opinion, and I think that's what gels the team together is like their play. play well with others, I suppose. But, you know, I just don't see him being like a galvanizer on the team.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you. We're not going to go full wrestling, but you were at Raw, you were at TNA.
Yeah.
Lay it out. What was it like? Was it good?
The TNA show was a lot of fun. I think there were probably 3,000 people there, which is usually about double what TNA normally sees in an event or a pay-per-view. So that's a big show. I don't know what kind of numbers AEW is pulling, but they better watch out because there's that partnership with WWE. You had Matt Cardona challenge Joe Hendry for the title at Impact this week as well. So they're crossing over in all kinds of different ways. And there were several, I think there were 4 NXT people at the TNA event. You had the Fraxium and gosh, I forget who else. You had Cora Jade show up at the end there for the women's championship. So AEW better start making some plays here soon because I could see a TNA sort of passing them up.
I heard WWE might be in the market to buy TNA.
Yeah, of course they're in the market. They can afford it. And
yeah.
I heard an interesting take. I think it was from the Busted Open guys, but they were talking about how there's WWE's sort of with this TNA move making their own territories like the old school wrestling days. And I thought that was a pretty cool take. And I think it could be cool to have this sort of like WWE universe where TNA and NXT and WWE, the main card, they're all sort of mixing it up together. I think that could be really cool. And if you go to one of those smaller brands events, you have the chance of seeing a WWE superstar there. So I think it could be scary for anyone going up against them.
Well said. Well said. I think you and I have not talked to you about this, but we will do, if you are free, we'll do like a Royal Rumble special.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll do a all wrestling show so we can parse the wrestling from the Kangs and hit that because that's a pretty big event coming up.
Yeah. Hey, well, speaking of big events, we've got Saturday night's main event this weekend.
I forgot.
And then the next following weekend is going to be Rumble. So big week or so here for WWE fans. I don't know. Let's hit the big one. Gunther versus Jay.
It's gonna stay on Gunther. There's no way they put it on Jay because I'm thinking of like the WrestleMania, like outlook and faces versus heels. You think they're gonna change? You thought they were gonna change it at the last one. I can see the look on your face. Go.
Yeah, as much as I hate to say it, I think they're going to put the belt on Jay.
Really? All right.
I think so. I just, I was thinking about this with some of the other champions that we've had recently or that are currently holding the titles, maybe outside the women's division, but they've been kind of like lackluster runs for some of these title holders. Braun Breaker, I don't think he's had an especially special run, especially special. My question is like, if you put the belt on Jay, well, Braun Breaker just beat him a couple of months ago. So you're saying, like, in theory, Braun Breaker is beating Gunther? I don't know. That just seems weird to me. Then why isn't he the heavyweight champion, right? So
it's like the linear championship arguments. Like with the NBA. The Kings are right now the linear champions because they beat Boston.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I mean, I'm not mad at it if they do that. I'm not mad at it at all, and I don't think it's Gunther's fault. There's not like he's gotten a ton of time and momentum. Hell, he wasn't even a focus on Netflix on the first episode. So, we'll see.
You know, being at Raw on Monday, Jay opened the show and that place went nuts. I think we were doing Yeet for about 7 minutes straight, is what it felt like. It was crazy. The whole floor of American Airlines Center was like bouncing up and down. It was wild. So that dude's got a he's got a ton of pop behind him. Jay is killing it. People love Jay Uso, and I think that's what you need.
You were doing what for 7 minutes?
Yeet.
You were eating?
I wasn't, okay, because I knew that Gunther was going to come out, so I can't just like go and yeet for 20 minutes straight and then Gunther comes out. Here's what I found out. I like everybody on the Raw roster that everyone hates or doesn't care about. I'm a big Drew McIntyre fan, big Gunther fan. No one made a sound when those guys came out. CM Punk, huge pop. Not a huge CM Punk fan. I do like Jey Uso, but I knew what was coming. So I didn't want to root for him. And this dad next to me goes, "Man, you just like the old school style guys." And I was like, "Yeah, I do." Sorry.
I'm just shocked that they're running around. It's cool. I think it's funny, the whole Yeet thing, but they've turned like Yeet into this like pop culture thing, and there's definitely like a sub meaning, but excuse me, behind it. You know, like it's just yeah, me and my kid, we were eating you know, like you just,
I can't control my horny level.
It's just like you can't do it with a straight face. It's like, okay, because like some people take like the Yeet term, and you get it. All right. If Jey Uso is going to be the champion, then Jey Uso is going to be the champion.
I think he does. And you brought up WrestleMania, and I just think that going into WrestleMania, Jey Uso, if he's still the champion by then, is probably going to draw the most viewers. Maybe that opens the shot for, John Cena wins Royal Rumble, let's say. Now he could face Jey Uso instead of a Cody to win that belt.
John Cena?
It's a complete crap.
All right. Well, however we get there.
Hey, I'm not
I ain't paying
saying one way or the other,
shit.
but you can't throw that idea in the trash.
No,
that's
you can't.
That's out there because
all right.
Everyone wants to see John get his 17th title. Joe Hendry called John out recently after he won the title, so maybe John Cena wins the TNA championship, and that's his 17th.
We'll see. We're getting exotic. Dude, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks,
Holy
bro.
crap. That's hilarious. Good job by you. We'll get together, schedule that show, and we'll let everybody know. So
we'll do it.
All right. Adam coming through as always on a Friday. Back to the Kings. It's what we want to talk about. I love all of the comments. We're going to parse through this. We're also going to hear from Adam Silver on the state of the game. I think there's some interesting things that he had to say. Very long-winded, but definitely newsworthy and something that affects the NBA and how it works going forward. So we'll get to those in a moment. Going to get to the chat. We're going to talk Fox and address your questions. Also talk about some of the trends as well. And what's up with the finger? Look, the broadcast made it a thing last night, so we might as well cover it. But first, PK, what's up, man?
Hey, Ryan.
How you doing, brother? Happy Friday.
Hey, happy Friday to everybody in the chat, and happy Friday to you as well. I have a point. I feel like Kings fans are very simple, and we love being underdogs. When there's drama, Fox asks this kind of weird feeling of drama, like contract. We're worried about his contract, what he's going to get paid. And it really kills the vibe. And, when do you think it becomes toxic when Fox becomes the attention of what's going on with Kings as a team in general?
When do I think it gets toxic? I think, well, toxic's a strong word. Had Mike Brown not been fired, you were getting very close to it.
Yeah.
You were getting super close to it between what happened in the Detroit game with De'Aaron. Hey, PK, will you turn down your audio a little bit? It's crazy loud.
Yeah, I got you. Is it better?
Thanks. Yep, much better. I think you were really close to it then, but Mike gets fired. But I've seen, and tell me how y'all feel about it, but I've seen, and PK, tell me how you feel, in a lot of our post-game shows, a lot of Fox's comments coming up again about how he said that they were going to need help from the rest of the NBA. It was out of their hands. People still not over what he said about, well, it doesn't matter, it doesn't change. And I'm paraphrasing here after the Detroit game. Doesn't change what happened. It feels like some fans are still holding on to it. So I don't know. It's a good question. I think people are going to start
Ryan,
getting fatigued.
Let me ask you another thing, Ryan. It's like, if we don't move Fox, let's say we don't move Fox and we keep him here, because he's a very, everyone knows he's a great player. But let's say we keep him, and then what happens to the discussions that we have about Fox a month from now? Like, if we don't move him and Fox is still here, there's a chance that this escalates into some kind of just unnecessary drama. Maybe
well, PK,
Fox
he's not,
needs to go.
Brother, he ain't moving at the trade deadline unless somebody calls you. No, unless somebody calls you up and says, "Hey, we'll give you SGA for Fox or Giannis for Fox." Then
why do you think Fox is so hard to move?
It's not that he's hard to move. I just don't think the Kings are there yet. I think he would be if the Kings were going to pull this thing apart, I think he's the easiest and probably the most valuable to move in terms of return, but I don't think they're ready to do that, especially now that they've been on this run under Doug.
When does this contract expire, Ryan?
Next year, the end of next year.
So it makes no sense for a team to hold on when a guy's contract is expiring next year anyway. Like,
well,
maybe we're gonna just take a loss and just move, because when he resigns the contract, I don't think he's going to be with Kings anyway.
Well, and that's kind of where this got accelerated. Grant and I were having these conversations over the summer before this season, and this all got pushed up because of the team not doing well, Fox's comments on the podcast, his back and forth with Coach Brown in the media. So we'll see. I'm going to go over it here in a sec. Thanks, PK. I'm going to let you go.
No worries. Hey, thank you, Ryan.
Yep, appreciate you. Okay, so really quick, let's talk about that. It's a decent question. It's a very decent question about why not just get off of him now. It's because of a lot of what you guys are saying. We're going to get to it here in a second. But a lot of what's being said in the chat is true. He has been a great quote-unquote face of the franchise here in Sacramento. Now, I think that we use face in Sacramento a little loosely, because if you put De'Aaron Fox on at least half of the other teams in the NBA, he's not the face of their team. In fact, when Damon Bruce and I did the pregame show, we were talking about Steph Curry, and I related it to kind of the decision that's coming up with De'Aaron here in the next year and a half. And he's like, you can't even put those two in the same sentence. And he's right. And he wasn't calling me out, but it's too close. There's a clear level below that. Now that we have that separated, we can get back to what we're saying. De'Aaron's been great off the court. Damon Bruce asked me straight up. He's like, has De'Aaron been an asshole to the Kings? And I dodged the question because I didn't know how to answer it. And I'm not going to sit here and call De'Aaron Fox an asshole. I don't know De'Aaron Fox. I don't think he's been an asshole. He's doing everything right publicly. He's stayed out of trouble. He's great for the community. He gives his all. He hustles. He makes the team better in most cases. The question is, does he make the team better to the tune of $40+ million a year? Now, maybe he did 2 years ago, the year before that, the year before that, but this is now a different team with different pieces, younger pieces that are showing that there's some promise. Just like one day, 6-7 years ago, that Vivek sat down with De'Aaron Fox and said, hey, I got the keys to this franchise. I want to give them to you, kid. You've got some younger pieces that might not be at that same level. And quite frankly, Fox's first few years was not anything crazy special. Keegan Murray's rookie numbers to his second year numbers were a bigger jump than De'Aaron's were. Now, De'Aaron did not have the people around him that Keegan Murray did. That's a fair argument. But then there's always the counter to that argument, right? The counter is, well, if you're that guy, you don't need anything around you. You're that guy. That's how those guys became that guy. It started with them. It wasn't building around them. It started with them. And then it was just filling in pieces. And De'Aaron hasn't been that guy either. So it's complicated. I'm not saying Keegan Murray's your piece. I ain't saying that Keegan Murray is your piece that you're building around. I ain't saying that Keon Ellis is your piece that you're building around. I think there's a little bit of an argument at this point to be made, a little bit of an argument that maybe Malik Monk could be close to a piece like that. But here's the thing about Sacramento basketball, and I said it like 2 weeks ago. Sacramento basketball has never been about one person. It's always been about at least two. And in Sacramento's best era of basketball, it was about 5. Hell, it was about 14. It was about the 8-9 man rotation that Rick Adelman used. Those dudes just fit together perfectly. Sacramento's never had that one dude. And so the trouble that I have had with this whole Fox discussion is wrapping my arms around the points of view that some of you have that Fox is that dude. There's no way this franchise goes on without Fox in Sacramento. This franchise is going to fall off a cliff without Fox in Sacramento. I can tell you this franchise will, to PK's point, fall off a cliff if it's Sacramento without Fox with nothing back. If he just walks like Bogey did, if he walks like Malik did, but doesn't come back, then that's going to be a problem for the Kings. So getting back to the younger pieces, it's like, yeah, well, what could you fill in around them at that price point in this NBA? Because quite frankly, I think you could be closer and maybe better with what you have, because you have 5 solid guys right now. You've got 5 that can play together undoubtedly, and the numbers bear it out. In fact, let's go to those numbers really quick. Domantas Sabonis and Malik Monk are one of 4 duos in the NBA, y'all. One of 4 in the NBA that have 50 assists between each other. 50 assists. Other guys on that list, Jokic and Murray, LeBron and Austin Rivers. I believe Westbrook and somebody, I forget who it was with Westbrook at one time. So that tells me that there's something pretty damn good there. So look, you guys have seen this before, but this is updated now. A basketball team is pieces of the puzzle. So DeRozan, Ellis, Monk, Murray, Sabonis, that 5, they played 112 minutes this season together. These stats are per 100 possessions. This is not per game. So you got to keep that in mind. But over 100 possessions in 112 minutes. So 100 possessions is the definer for this stat. The 112 minutes is how many minutes this unit has played together. They're averaging 9.2 more made field goals than the Kings average over 100 possessions. They're averaging 7 more field goal attempts. They're shooting at a better percentage, over 6% more than the average for this team. So look, you can go down the numbers. You have 5 pieces of the puzzle that work really well together. Really well together. So my question to you, and this is not even saying, well, you know, they're better without Fox. My question to you is, does one De'Aaron Fox at minimum, because De'Aaron Fox this year is making 40, let's see, let's get it exactly on the dot. I think he's in the 30s this year. De'Aaron this year is making 34.8. Next year, he'll be making 37. Basically $37.1, just under that $1 million. So my question to you is, at $40 million plus a year, do you think one De'Aaron Fox makes the Kings that much significantly better, even though the stats show above them that they're worse with him on the floor instead of Keon Ellis? Does one De'Aaron Fox for another 4 or 5 years at least $40 million a year the answer to making this Kings team a contender in the West and possibly a championship team? Because that is the majority of your payroll there. And now let's go into another assumption as well. Here's the next assumption, that Vivek Ranadive is willing to go into his pockets and pay Keegan Murray. Now, he won't have to pay against the luxury tax because Keegan would be Sacramento's own free agent. So let's assume in this scenario where Fox is worth it, that Keegan Murray's going to stay and the owner is willing to pay for it. Okay? That's your payroll. And here's the other thing that you need to keep mind of. Domantas Sabonis, y'all, his contract only goes through 27-28. Malik Monk goes through 27-28 as well. However, his last year is a player option. So Malik can pick up that last year or not. And by the time Malik gets, here's my guess, the way that Malik Monk is playing right now with Domantas Sabonis, by the time we get to 26-27, Malik Monk is going to be scuffing at $20 million. He's going to be like, you kidding me? Pay me. Pay me what I'm worth now. Fox is making 41. I should be at least 35. So what I'm saying is your salary situation, the distribution, the money to go get other players, and this is where it goes also to what the Kings have in draft capital. And it's part of what Monty McNair and Wes Wilcox are looking at right now, because primarily, assuming you don't trade away your draft capital, that is largely how the Kings are going to have to get better. That's how you're going to have to fill in the holes. You're not going to have a ton of money off the books to go get all these other players that we need. However, that $40 million to De'Aaron Fox at minimum, 40's at minimum. I think he has an offer on the table well above 40 a year. The Supermax bumps you up to, I believe, close to 60 million a year. But could that money be spread out to get other pieces to the puzzle with what you have right now? These 5 players that play really well. So that is kind of, in a nutshell, what we're looking at and what the franchise is looking at. You know, when we talk about going to possibly get a Valanciunas, if we talk about going to get a John Collins, you're talking about salary replacement. The money has to work in those situations. Now, Valanciunas, not hard to make the money work there. That's easy. But if you go for John Collins, that's going to be Kevin Huerter, and that's going to be Trey Lyles. It's the only way the money works. But all of that money is tied up in John Collins. Do you understand that? You're giving up 2 players for 1 with the same money committed against the cap, which means you have to fill a roster spot or give somebody on this roster an opportunity, more minutes. You have to elevate maybe somebody that's a 2-way player. So this thought process that all this money is going to clear up and we can still get better if we re-sign Fox. Yeah, the salary cap's going to go up. All that's going to go with the market. But it's not going to go up significantly enough to make this team better, to go get 3 or 4 more pieces. Yes, you'll have a mid-level exception because you're not in the aprons. That's when I go back to saying you are tying your boat to De'Aaron Fox. That's what you're doing. You are tying your boat. You're saying that's the piece. And I don't think, and so everybody's saying we're being negative. No, it's like, I don't know that everybody realizes what that means. It's not just sign De'Aaron Fox, re-sign him, and now we can also go make more moves. No. Because if, let's say, we resign De'Aaron Fox tomorrow, the only money you have coming off the books, if the Kings made no trades, the only money coming off the books at the end of this season is Trey Lyles, Alex Len, Doug McDermott, Jay Crowder, and Jordan McLaughlin. That totals up to be 3, 6, 8, 10, 11. That's about $19 million. You would have $19 million in whatever the bump up is in the cap to play with this offseason. It's better than some teams, but you got to remember the gap that's between the Kings and the West right now. That's not going to close with just $19 million. So that means that Fox is the guy. That's the one. You're going to tie it up there. That is the one that's going to take you over the top. And so that's what we have been trying to get across when we're looking at different lineups and saying, look, you've got 5 players that play really well together. What if you could go get a backup point guard that can shoot the ball, can put pressure on the defense, plays really well pick and roll, You get them at a veteran minimum. You get them at maybe $8, $9, $10 million a year. You still got 30 to play with, possibly. So it's a very, very interesting conversation. And I guess this is where, and we're going to get into the next part of it, we're also going to hear from Adam Silver as well. I love that Progressive put ears in there. Ears Silver. Yeah, that's so good. The other part of this is this whole finger thing, because I think it really does affect certain things. It could definitely be a piece that could come up during these talks and could affect the Kings and what they could do, what they might do, and what Fox's camp might ask of the Kings in the interim based off of good faith until the finger gets right. Let's say he plays through the end of the season. Let's say he needs surgery at the end of the season. And most guys of his stature don't go in to a final year. They don't go into a final year of their contract without an extension. Look what's going on with Jimmy Butler. And I'm not saying Fox is going to be Jimmy Butler, but that's how those situations happen. That's exactly how those situations happen. And now you're scrambling to get a guy off the books that might be not at market value, which you may take a haircut on because you got to get him off the team because things are toxic. But you got to find a way to make the pay work up. But this whole finger thing gets very interesting in how the rhetoric. What if De'Aaron Fox doesn't have an off season this offseason? Let's just say, let's start there. Let's say he's recovering this entire summer from a surgery. Where does that move the leverage for the Kings? Grant doesn't think it affects anything. I kind of disagree. But where's that move the leverage for the Kings if they're looking to make a move with him? I don't know. Maybe it doesn't change anything. I think it kind of does. But from De'Aaron's camp, what if it's like just what it is now? I want to be in Sacramento. I want to stay in Sacramento. The finger's the problem last year. I'm going to be good. We can win here. And what happens if we end up in the same roundabout that we do, or we round up in with Mike Brown in the first half of the season? You're going to be closer to a Jimmy Butler situation than you're going to be a happy player. Now the Kings are going to be scrambling to get somebody. You see how many ways this could go, which is just nuts. And so I want to see where all y'all come out on it. I want to talk about Adam Silver as well. We got about 45 minutes left in the show. Let's get back to the comments really quick because we have not hit those. And I know all of you are chomping at the bit to be heard on this. There is a lot. I love it. Thanks for being here. Let's see. That's a possibility. Fox could resign, but we'd overpay for him. I don't mind Fox staying. Yours, Progressive. No wonder everything. Okay, you guys are having a conversation. You guys disagree respectfully. I like that. He has been the leader of the team for nearly a decade. Think in terms of culture and chemistry, as well as elite play. He is / has been the glue of the franchise. I see the argument, but what has been the state of the franchise? That's the other side of it. You could be... Anyway, you get it. I don't need to go into an example. Donald Fox is not just this team's leader. He can be a part of the team, but he ain't the guy. And I think that is an interesting distinction. And I know we just kind of circled it a little bit a second ago. But what's De'Aaron Fox want? That's not what anybody's asking. Yes, we hear that you want to have your career here in Sacramento, but what do you want as a basketball player? Grant thinks he wants to be the guy. Grant's on the record saying that. The Fox has always wanted to be the guy. If that's the case, my take would be Fox being the guy does not work because that's what it's shown over the 7 years. You didn't get to the playoffs until Domas got here. So can De'Aaron Fox be happy being a part, being a significant part, being a guy, a significant guy on a great team? I don't know the answer to that. You all don't know the answer to that, but you got to consider that as well. Green needs to adapt his style of game because this team is built differently. He absolutely does. And so, again, with the Foxy stuff against Golden State, I was good with it. 10 free throws down the stretch. Now, his shooting over the last 3 games has been poor. 25 of 63. The one thing that I will be a little critical about De'Aaron on, it happens almost anytime he loses his cool, and he might not lose it to the degree that it's a technical foul, but it happened last night, and it happens more times than not. He didn't think he got a foul. Or no, he thought he was going up. Let me check that. He thought he was going up last night, and they called the foul on the floor. He didn't like it. He was barking at the ref. He then proceeded to try to take it at the rack. Right after that, the defense made a play. The ball went off of his leg and out of bounds. Turnover. The next possession, Denver comes right back up the court, and he hacks one of their guys. It wasn't even Jamal Murray. It was one of their role players. He hacks the guy, and it's a 3-point play. Like, it was a clear frustration foul. That happens too much. And to be I'm going to say the word that we always tell Jay not to say, to be a championship team, to be that guy, that important guy on a great team, a championship team, that has to be the exception to the rule. That can't be the norm. And too often, that's kind of the norm. And Jira, there's a lot of stuff that says, hey, Foxy, don't piss him off. He's going to go off. He's going to go off. Yes, he'll go off too, but there's those plays in between. And those plays make the difference when it comes to playoff time, when it comes to basketball in June. You can't have those plays. Those plays are what lose teams playoff games. And this doesn't just go for Fox. Monk does it sometimes. But here's the difference. You're held to a different level of accountability when you're that guy. On the payroll, when you're making 40 to 45 million, when Doug Christie got this job and he said to the media that he told the guys, don't worry about the refs. I'm going to handle that. All you guys need to worry about is giving your full effort, going all out, playing physical. I'll handle the rest. There was a handful of guys he was clearly talking to about that, because you do have some guys here on this team that handle things very well with the referees. They do it the right way. And Fox does it the right way sometimes, but sometimes it's not the right way. So again, let's separate this. I'm not getting on him. I'm just telling you the things that get pointed out when you are going to be making that much money on a team with high expectations, very high expectations. If he resigns. By the way, if you're just joining us, we have audio last night from Domas taking the ball to the rack. I love the mics that are attached to the cameras. Check this out. How about that, man? He has got such a deep growl. If you missed it, here's Domas last night. Look at that, man. Sabaka coming through for the Kings. Fox is not a leader. I think he's a leader in his own way. Now, you can question if that can lead a team. Hopefully McNair just trades Fox soon before every other team understands that Fox isn't one of the difference makers in the league. Well, I don't think it's fair to say difference makers. I don't know if he is a difference maker. If you're talking about superstars in the league, then yeah, no, not quite yet. Urs hopping back in, not hating on Fox, but this team is just going in a different direction. They are kind of going in a different direction. You're right. And I think the way this is going, Doug Christie is going to be the coach of this team. If you're just joining us, I had some comments earlier in the show about the differences between coaching in Sacramento versus coaching in the rest of the NBA. Go back and check that out. It will make a little bit more of a sense to you. I think in the offseason, the team will offer him a responsible contract, and we'll see what kind of value Fox really has in the open market. Okay, so he has already turned down 2 extensions, and they were both north of $40 million a year. So I don't think it would be anything under what he's already been offered. In fact, that would be a good way to really piss De'Aaron off. If you pulled that from the table and you said, you know what, how about 28 a year? Not going to work. Now that's a great point. 40 million a year. Don't know how I feel about that. It's a lot of money. At least 40 million a year. Kevin, what's up? How you doing, brother?
Acknowledge me.
Look at all these people acknowledging Kevin. Come on. What are we doing here? You don't walk away from a talent like Fox if he fits, but it seems like he doesn't. You don't walk away from him, but his trade value could be tremendous if you do it at the right time. And I think that's where this whole finger thing gets really interesting. I think that's where it gets really interesting. Kings fans have Stockholm syndrome when it comes to Fox. Just trade him and get 2 to 3 role players. Well, and also you got to remember this CBA. This CBA is geared more towards drafting well and developing young talent. So it wouldn't hurt the Kings to get some more draft picks in the hopper. Now you need a nice balance of both, because the Kings are built right now to win. This is not a team that's built for 2 years from now. With DeMar DeRozan here, you are built to win right this second. They were built to win last year, and it didn't work out. So Kevin, trade Fox, Kevin, and yeah, okay. So this is the fine line between this, because De'Aaron's on the record about wanting to be here. We've established that, but this is the position. Now think about this: if you're Monty McNair and you're Wes Wilcox, we'll take Vivek Ranadive out of the equation. I'm going to say this, and we're going to listen to our first soundbite from Adam Silver in his press conference, and I'll let you think about it, and we'll get back to the chat. Think about where they're at in the front office. Your guy, who has been the face of the franchise, who is beloved here in Sacramento, who most people see on the same level as a lot of the other stars in the NBA. He is saying he wants to stay in Sacramento, but he wants to win. He's not worried about the money. He wants to win. Okay? If you're Monty McNair and you're looking at what's happening under Doug Christie, you're probably looking at much bigger samples than that, but you're looking at the team production of everybody else around Fox. And if you are seeing the production that's happening around him, which we showed, I'm not going to go back to it, then you are in an impossible situation. Because what happens, because remember, you have no commitment from De'Aaron Fox whatsoever, other than a verbal, this is where I want to be, but I want to win. What happens is you are faced with, well, if De'Aaron wants to win now, that means we've got to part with some of our more valuable pieces. So they have to decide, and I don't think it's going to happen at this deadline, but certainly this summer it's going to be looked at. You could be in a situation where you're trading away Keegan Murray, you're trading away Keon Ellis, you're trading away Malik Monk, Devin Carter. You're starting to chip away at those pieces to try another experiment with De'Aaron Fox, who is not under contract anything beyond the end of next season, to appease the winning part, but you have no commitment. He's going to stay. So do you see the conundrum they're in? You could chip away at the pieces of the puzzle that work to bring other pieces in, and maybe they work better. Maybe it was the right move. But what if they don't? And what if you're in a worse spot and now De'Aaron's like, trade me? Or De'Aaron's like, I'm not going to re-sign here. And now you've traded away the pieces that work. They are towing that line so finely right now. I'm going to put up the stats really quick over the last 3 games, the aggregate stats, so you can see how everybody's been doing. DeMar DeRozan has been playing excellent. By the way, there are some funny bits from Adam Silver in this. I think I might skip the first one here from Adam Silver because it's more talking about growing the game internationally. You know what? I'm not going to skip it. It's only 56 seconds. Adam Silver had a press conference yesterday in Paris. He does not make himself available to the media all that often, so I found it pretty important. Here was his answer about expanding the game globally.
It's a unique league in my mind in that, of course, we represent the best basketball and with the WNBA
and the NBA
best women's basketball, but it's also a lifestyle brand. And I think that's something that comes up in many of the meetings, that there's a strong association with music, with fashion, with culture, with art. And I think there's a real appreciation for that the NBA is even something a little bit different than basketball. This is pure basketball. And I think the way to grow this sport is to appeal to people beyond those who are hardcore basketball fans. And that's where our success has come in the United States and elsewhere. It's about the NBA brand. And I think that the notion we've heard back is that if you can bring those elements of the NBA brand and bring those to Europe as part of some structured league potentially, we think there's a real opportunity.
So I've never thought of the NBA as a brand. Dude, we've got some Adam Silver sound that we'll have fun with after this. I'm going to give you some crack as well as the stuff that you don't like as much. I'm going to give you a little mix of both. But I'd never thought of the NBA as a brand. Have you guys? And by brand, I'm talking about what he's saying. We're more than basketball. We're culture. We're music. We're a style. Like, that kind of hit different to me. And it made me kind of think, like, is the NBA's head in the right place? Here was the next question. It's a little bit long-winded, so I'll mix through the stats here so you have something to look at. But I think it's worth listening to. In fact, I know it's worth listening to because it's talking about some of the problems in the NBA and how they want to handle them. Here's Adam Silver again.
Cooper Flag, do you think it could be one of the next faces of the league?
I'm going to build off Tim's question. And the last person I want to put pressure on is Cooper Flag, but he looks pretty spectacular so far. I will just add, that while it's amazing to see the breadth and depth of international players coming into the NBA, 70% of our players in the NBA, of course, are still U.S. players. Could we do a better job working potentially with other youth programs in the U.S., developing U.S. players? Absolutely. I think it's something. You happen to be sitting next to Kathy Behrens from the NBA, who's very involved in that program, that we're taking a very close look, working with the NCAA, working with Nike on what more we can do to help bring elite players along, at the same time focusing on participation generally for boys and girls. And I think there's lessons to be learned from Europe, from their system in terms of development. So I'm not concerned at all about the pipeline of American players, but I think there's more we can do. And incidentally, in Europe, having some of the conversations that we've had while we were here are with some former NBA players who grew up in European systems. And as I said before, if we were to look at a league opportunity, we want to be part of a larger ecosystem. And what we've heard is there's been some significant cuts in some of the traditional nationally funded programs that have helped develop basketball. And I know that's something that our partners at FIBA are very focused on. Anything we do, they want to be supportive of the local leagues, and they want to be supportive of development programs to ensure that we're doing as good a job as we can supporting youth basketball. And just add, when I talk to the great players in the NBA, yes, you have to have incredible physical talents, but Victor's a great example of it. He had incredible training, as a youth player and was part of first-class organizations. That's necessary. I think it's just like, for someone like me who had the opportunity to go to great schools and be trained by David Stern and others, I don't think sports is any different. It's not an accident that these players reach these levels. And I think so the more we can do to support the ecosystem to ensure that basketball is played. And lastly, I'll say, yes, with a focus on elite sports, but just one additional word just about the wonders of sport. And this is not limited to basketball, but it's something we spend a lot of time at the NBA and WNBA, and that's just encouraging young people to be actively involved physically. With all these screens that people spend all their time looking at, you need to remind them how important it is to be physically active. And basketball happens to be one of those sports where for boys and girls, you can play it alone, you can play it 3-on-3, 5-on-5, etc. That's why I'm so encouraged by what they're doing at the Olympic movement, that getting kids active and then teaching them the values of sport, respect, responsibility, hard work, all those wonderful things that come with sport. Then for the vast majority of them, or almost all of them, who will never go on to play sports at an elite level, those are the important qualities that allow them ultimately to become top-notch journalists or league executives or lawyers, doctors, etc., all those common values. So that traditionally we've had so much support from governments around the world when we brought the game and the investments to these communities.
So to set the stage a little bit more, if you're just joining the show, the NBA is looking to possibly start another version of the NBA that is international, meaning the existing domestic teams would not be moving overseas. You would be starting another version of the NBA for the countries in Europe and the surrounding countries. And what they're starting to crack at and getting at is the differences in play between European basketball and domestic basketball. And the questions that Adam Silver is being asked is about the problems with the NBA currently, the product, viewership going down, specifically three-point shooting. And they're going to talk about that more in a minute, and I'm going to break it up. I'm not going to put you through another 4-minute soundbite right away. But basically, that your stars, a lot of your stars right now in the NBA, they're not domestically made. They're not Americans. They're Europeans. And so Adam Silver is being challenged on this notion about, well, you have a problem with the way basketball is being played here in America. Everything seems to be going right here in Europe. In fact, we can't do an all-star game, which is Team USA versus the world, because 70% of the players in the NBA are American and 30% are from the rest of the parts of the world, because you'd be not including every player in the NBA a fair shot to be included as an all-star, because you would be choosing 15 people from that 70% pool and 15 people from that 30% pool. And I find it really interesting because that is your most interesting all-star game. And it would be balanced. In fact, it would probably be the world that would have the edge over Team USA. And so he's being challenged on some of these things, and they continue to get down to the bigger questions about the product, the three-point shooting, and also some things about developing talent, the media, how that's going to work as well, the evolution of that. So, Tim, with all due respect, I appreciate your, I 100% appreciate you being here. I've appreciated your opinion, but I would like to know what that is based off of. What statistics, what in the Kings record over De'Aaron Fox's tenure puts him in the same that your comment seems to paint him in the same light as a generational talent. How would this franchise be back another 20 years if you don't have De'Aaron Fox? I'm curious why your stance is there. I just want to know what that is based off of, because the numbers show otherwise. Yeah, I'm still a fan of Fox too. I love him. I painted the picture just a little bit ago. That was the picture that I painted, that it's like, okay. Somebody said, well, he didn't play bad the last couple games. He didn't play bad defensively. Now, he has not shot the ball well the last 3 games whatsoever. But if somebody's making that much money, don't you need more than that? It's where it gets really different. Utah wouldn't do it. You guys are talking trades. Fox should get in the weight room. He shouldn't. Because that's the other part. He's going to be going in his next contract, it will be year number 9. You are who you are at that point in the NBA with your body for the most part and your speed. I mean, you are in at year 9, you are in your prime years. You should be in your prime, and it's probably not going up too much further. You're probably going to go up a little bit further, but not a crazy amount from where you were when you signed that contract, and then it's down from there. Now Sabonis is worth $40 million because he is consistent. Sabonis is, for reference point, Sabonis by 27-28, he's going to be making $49.9 million. I would like to think that a team that really wants to win would take a pay cut to have that team, kind of like Monk, right? Well, Monk didn't necessarily take a pay cut. That was a big raise for him. You did not overpay for him, but it was also a product of a different time, different CPAs. Or CPAs. What am I saying? Rhino always talks about the stats with and without Fox on the floor. The numbers are crystal clear. Fox isn't the difference maker right now for this team. Yeah, Tim, if you're just tuning in, let's go back to this really quick. And again, not an anti-Fox thing. I laid out the implications of both situations, of Fox being here and Fox not being here. And I laid out where the front office is at with the decision-making right now. But here you go, Tim. There's your numbers this year. That's 112 minutes without Fox. That is 368 with him. So sample size much smaller without him. But the numbers between those 5 playing together is through the roof. Better than those with him on the floor. So that's why I'm interested to see where you're coming up with that. I guess what changes then, Tim, what changes? What magically changes with De'Aaron in a new contract? That I guess, is it a 2 times better De'Aaron Fox? And Tim, here's the other thing. You are seeing a slow migration into, and this is so perfect, because look at the Beam team. I'm going to use that example. Look at the Beam team. That team was built around De'Aaron Fox. It was built around De'Aaron Fox, and that was a team that overachieved. That was a little bit of a different NBA. They were healthy as hell. The rest of the league was hurt. They made the playoffs. That was a team that was built around De'Aaron. Everybody else had to fill in the holes. They had to fill in and find their roles. What you're seeing right now with Doug Christie on the court is not a team that is built around De'Aaron. In fact, I would argue it's the opposite. It's a case of De'Aaron trying to find out where he fits in all of this. What Tim, my man, if De'Aaron's that guy, he just got DeMar DeRozan. Why would you need to start Malik Monk, Tim? Do you see the problem with that? Now Fox has to adjust to DeMar and Monk in the starting lineup. Well, if Fox and DeMar worked perfectly with Sabonis, you wouldn't need Monk in the starting lineup, Tim. If you weren't here for this part of it, there are 4 duos in the NBA that have 50 assists between each other, meaning they have completed the other end of the assist, the basket, and received the pass from the other player, and vice versa. The other person finished the basket with a pass from them. There's 4 duos. Malik Monk and Domantas Sabonis are one of the 4 duos. Amongst the other names, Jokic, Murray, LeBron James. Why is that not De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis, Tim? I guess I'm not trying to make this anti-De'Aaron Fox. That's not it. But I'm trying to understand what what magically changes. I just, if you want him, I think it is great to have De'Aaron Fox here. I just don't see how De'Aaron Fox plays into this thing at $40 or $50 million a year. In fact, I don't think anybody, for the most part, and I know Sabonis is there, and there's a much bigger argument on his behalf. Monk was a desperate addition by Mike Brown, and that depleted the bench. Tim, man, you're digging yourself a deeper hole, man. Mike Brown had no bench to begin with. Doug Christie had no bench last night. See, and dude, I get it. I appreciate you, but this is, I'm not trying to be an asshole poking holes into your opinions, but I'm trying to punch through and have a balanced conversation based on statistics. Let's go back to Adam Silver really quick, and we'll continue this conversation. Adam Silver again asked, and I'll try to speed through some of these words, not important.
Is there something about European development that you think could work in the U.S.?
Joe, I usually agree with you on most things, so I'd say, no, it's not fair at all to say that momentum has stalled. I mean, from what we've been doing at the league office.
Actually, we're going to skip that one. Let's go to the 3-point shooting one.
Is there something about European development that you think could work in the U.S.?
Joe, I usually agree with you on most things, so I'd say, no, it's not fair at all to say that momentum has stalled. I mean, from what we've been doing at the league office in terms of the process we've been following, we're right on track. I mean, I'm not sure what anybody else's expectation was. I mean, our plan all along was to spend time here this summer. We were here for the Olympics, to have a series of meetings, and we were on the ground here for roughly 2 weeks to watch basketball ourselves. Certainly all the stakeholders were here watching the Olympics, to go back, do some additional work, always knowing that we would be here for this week in January to set a set of meetings here and take advantage of that opportunity. We have an NBA board meeting late March. We'll be giving an update to our bosses in essence. So from that standpoint, we're right on track. So I don't feel that way at all. You know, I'd say in terms of what we see, remind me of the second part of your question, the development from standpoint. Yeah, I think there, sure. I think that when I talk to, Luka Doncic or certainly Victor or Giannis, other top-notch international players, and talk about the track they were on in developing as players, there's a lot that is preferable in many ways to the American system. I mean, it's an exaggeration to say it, but often people will shorthand it to say in Europe, youth basketball elite players, practice 6 days a week and play one. In the United States, they play 6 days a week and practice one. I mean, that's not quite true. I'm looking at Joe Dumars, who's sort of shaking his head, saying, in essence, yes. I mean, I think in youth basketball in the U.S., the young.
So he continues to go on talking about the differences and how important it is for, they believe in the NBA, athletes to play multiple sports growing up. And he paints a picture of that with the European players. And he also paints a picture of now injuries in the NBA, especially with younger guys. The analytics are showing it's because of overuse. It's wear and tear on these guys' bodies because they've been doing the same things for so long, specializing in one area. As for the 3-pointers, that was in the other clip. I'm thinking if I can just summarize this for you.
And was part of First Class, supportive of the local leagues, and they want to be supportive of development programs.
And you know what? We'll skip the 3-pointers. I don't want to keep you too long with the Adam Silver clips because we're deep in the show. Basically, what he was saying with threes is they do not want to have an overreaction to what's going on, but they are looking at it. And so the whole premise was to talk about, and I'm not going to go too deep into it because we're Kings deep right now, about how to improve the NBA product. It was also talking about expanding, which we've hit on. And basically the crux of the argument is this: the domestic game still has a little bit of a problem. So expanding it internationally could be a bigger problem, especially if the European basketball, where you are seeing a lot of the new faces of the NBA come from, or from around the world, I should say, not just European, but players from around the world, whether it be Canada, Africa, Greece, etc., them being the faces of the NBA. What happens if you see a better product overseas in the international spinoff of the NBA? Basically, the NBA needs to balance their basket and get things right here before they start spreading out over there. And, you know, he was asked some hard questions about it. So, and Tim, I am so glad that you asked the question because it is the perfect question. It is literally the crux of the argument that you have seen now under this Malik Monk, Doug Christie. And again, you got to give Mike Brown credit too. You got to give Mike Brown credit, but you also need to be very skeptical. And you also need to realize that the Kings, the coaches, and in my opinion, the owner have missed the most important part of this formula. And it's an early formula. I don't know if it's going to stay, but it certainly seems more sustainable than anything that we have seen in a while. It seems like it can be sustainable, but the Kings' problem was they have not had point guards. That has been the Kings' problem. They have not had point guards. So you've had really good pieces. You've had excellent pieces individually, but you're not merging those pieces together and making them better. You know, I guess the best way that I could put it is like if you're making a tomato sauce, man, you've got the 6 most beautiful tomatoes that came out of the garden. You've got beautiful tomatoes, but yeah, you've got some oregano, you've got some garlic. They're not as good as the tomatoes, but guess what? You start mixing all of that stuff together, they make a better product. They make a better taste. They create a beautiful ingredient as a whole. And the thing tying that together is the point guard position in this case. And it's not De'Aaron Fox's fault. He's never been a true point guard. Quite frankly, this team has taken the point guard, the backup point guard role, completely out of the picture. The only backup point guards that have been on this roster through this Beam Team era have been end of the bench guys towards the end of their career or early in their career, and they're combo guards. The same could be said about Davion Mitchell. The same could be said even to a degree about Devin Carter now with the draft strategy. But if Malik Monk has taught us anything, that's exactly what this team has needed. This team has needed a point guard that is not a scorer first, but a point guard that can also score. because then you are tying it together perfectly. You now have somebody that can run a pick and roll game with Domantas Sabonis. Domantas Sabonis was born to run the pick and roll. He's done it well all his career. That's why when Malik Monk would come into the games, the Beam Team year, last year, especially this year, and the pick and roll became the bread and butter for the Kings offensively, the record changed. The numbers went up. The Kings got to the free throw line. All those things have happened. So when Tim asked, well, who's going to play backup point guard? Tim, that's the point. You get a good backup point guard. That is exactly the point. That is outside of size. That is exactly what this Kings team needs. And it's what this Kings team has been missing. You have been asking De'Aaron Fox. You've been asking, and I think Malik Monk's done a hell of a job of it, but you've been asking Malik Monk to run the offense when that's not what they do best. You've asked, hell, let's take it a step further. You've asked Domantas Sabonis to be your point guard. Now, he's not your point guard dribbling the ball up the court, but when you get into your half-court offensive set, he is your point guard. This team has a ton of finishers and not enough creators. If you mix in some high-level creators with these high-level finishers, guess what? Now they both make each other better. That is what has been learned through Malik Monk. The numbers show it. Everything shows it. So again, not Foxy's fault. Not Foxy's fault. So let's go back to the chat. Ryan, there's few point guards, and Fox has one of the highest assists per game with the scoring point guards. Okay, Tim, great. What about the wins? Tim, what about the wins? LaMelo Ball is averaging 29 points and so many assists in Charlotte. What's their record? You can get stats, and I'm not saying De'Aaron's just getting stats. What I'm saying is you can get stats, but not be a great team. That's all I'm saying. You're not putting the right pieces together. That's all I'm saying. And it's not a just strictly Foxy thing. It's been a roster construction issue. The clear hole was the point guard. It's true. Tim is right. Fox is 5th amongst point guards in assists, which surprises me or surprises the F out of you. Correct. But you okay. Imagine what Fox would be in assists if he could run the pick and roll. That's the point. That is the point. What this team wants to do, scheme-wise, it's now a thing where it's how do you fit in rather than you fit in around there. Monty hasn't gotten them the power forward and point guard from the Beam team. Ryan hasn't gotten them the power forward / wing and point guard from the Beam team. I don't disagree with that. I'm telling you, they have filled the holes in the wrong places. They have filled the holes in the wrong places. And so you could even look at it and say, well, this is like, if you're De'Aaron Fox with all these guards that keep getting drafted behind you, it's like, what the hell? We needed a forward. We needed a Dalton Connect. We needed this. We needed that. There's flaws to go around. And I think we can all point those out, but that's where it's like, Tim, you're at the crossroads. Tim, where does that money come from when you re-sign Foxy? I already went over the money that's coming off the books. Oh, stop. Tim. Okay. Tim. Come on. Come on, Tim. Tim, that's too far. That's way too far. Way too far. Not even close. You can't do that, Tim. See, like, You can't do that, Tim. I was just on with Damon Bruce. Go back and watch that show and see the reaction that I got when I said that. Completely different players. Nonetheless, we have got a lot to talk about here in Sacktown. We've also got a lot of basketball coming up. The Kings lost the first game of the road trip, but it's all right. That's why they got the one against Golden State before they left. That was the really important one. Looking at the road trip, something that we have not looked at, again, resuming tomorrow with the New York Knicks. Then they head to Brooklyn on Monday. They've actually got some spread out. They don't really have back-to-backs, which is nice. Then Philadelphia, which will be without Joel Embiid. You've got a hell of a matchup with Oklahoma City. And then you finish up with Minnesota, and then you head home. You get 1 day off from coming off the East Coast, and you're back home against a very good Orlando team, a very, very good Orlando team. And they like to play defense, so that should be a very good matchup. The Kings' home schedule the rest of the way is just a bear. When they finish this now 16-22 game stretch on the road, their longest homestand is a brutal homestand. It is a slobber knocker of a homestand. You've got a back-to-back with Boston and Oklahoma City, or I think it's Boston and Milwaukee that's the back-to-back, and then it's Oklahoma City. It's those three in some combination there, and just some other really hard teams. Cleveland on that homestand. So the rubber meets the road. The real goal of this one to me is, can the Kings come home? Can they come back to the G1C over 500? That is the really big thing. Look, I appreciate, whether you realize it or not, I appreciate your opinions. Why is the show title crazy? Fox's fingers did steal the spotlight last night. 100% did. It's all Mark and Katie talked about. It became the topic of the game until the Kings actually came back. We hit that earlier on. Concerning numbers, considering teams dare Pinky to shoot. Look, what I was getting at is I appreciate everybody's opinion. Something is clear. Everybody has a different opinion on De'Aaron Fox. I think one thing is very fair here, and Tim kind of hit the nail on the head. I'm not going to go as far as 20 years because that's way too far out. That's way too far out. But I would tell you the next 5 years of Kings basketball truly, truly hinge on probably the next 12 calendar months. The next 5 years of Kings basketball hinge on the next 12 calendar months, because the franchise has, in between today and then, which would put us out about 2-3 weeks from the trade deadline, their decision to make on what the next move is going to be. Now, moves can come in between them. We don't know. We don't know what they're going to do in the draft. Will they have a draft pick? Hell, what will they do at the deadline? Are they going to make a move? We'll see. I think they do. We've documented that in many shows leading up to this, so I'm not going to go over it right now. But the bottom line, I think something we can all, and I like that you're like, hey, we're all Kings fans. Absolutely. We're all Kings fans. That's what we're here to debate. We all love our players. We respect our players. Do we get frustrated with our players? Absolutely. But guess what? They're Sacramento freaking Kings. The fact that we're having spirited debates about them, incredible. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate your opinions. Not trying to talk down. I'm just trying to paint both sides of the picture. But as Sacramento Kings fans, I think we can all agree on this. The one thing that cannot happen is allowing De'Aaron Fox to walk into free agency as a free agent. That absolutely cannot happen. De'Aaron Fox either needs to be traded or he needs to be extended. There is nothing in between. You can't play either side of the fence, because if you do and you allow him to walk into free agency, the biggest chance is this team will be screwed for the next 5 years. Now, this team could still have some issues before then with moves that are made, depending on how it plays out. I hope it plays out in a classy way and we don't have to focus on it. I wish we weren't focusing on it, but this season has become just as much about the record and the run as the future. So it's where we're at. It is what it is. But look, hopefully they can get this win tomorrow. We pay attention to see what's going to happen. Can Foxy break out of his shooting streak? 25 of 63 over the last 3 games. Can the Kings show up on the East Coast? It's going to be physical. It's going to be a grind. Hopefully it's a race to 100 points. If it is, that means the Kings definitely have a chance in this one. So we are back tomorrow. We've got pregame, postgame, halftime, everything in between right here on the channel. Make sure that you check us out. We will be back tomorrow at 3. We back? That was weird. We'll be back tomorrow at 3:45, getting you ready for the Kings and the Knicks. I don't know why the show stalled there. But hey, appreciate everybody today. Big thanks to Bennett's for sponsoring the show. Go to bennettsrestaurants.com. Love y'all. Love the Kings. Love Foxy. We've got opinions. Let's do it respectfully. And we all want the same thing. Lighten the damn
Light the
beam.
beam! Light it!
No doubt. So have a great rest of the day. We will see you tomorrow, 3:45 p.m. right here on the channel for pregame. We'll be talking Kings, Knicks, getting you the keys to the victory. If anything happens in between now and then, pay attention to the channel. We'll hop back on in terms of anything major with the trade deadline, or updates as to players. Anything shows up on the injury report, check out our X accounts. We'll put those up there as well. Go Kings, light the damn beam. Hope you have a great rest of your Friday. Thank you all for being here. If you just joined the show late and you walked into the Fox mess of a conversation, go back and check out some of the show before. It will definitely give you some context of how we got there. So, all right, make it a good one. So long. Court is dismissed.